Okay, so 500,000 he's asking you, and at this point, are you wondering, like, how is it possible? Is this guy making this amount of money as a translator?
The second
What's
wire I
going on?
was, because now, the first 300 grand, anyone could have 300 grand. He made $250,000 a year as an interpreter at the end. So, he could have saved it up or maybe he has some family
Right.
money. But now when you're sending 500,000 again after losing 300, okay. So then he asked for a million in credit. I give it to him. And then he sends another wire for 500,000. And this is when I get the phone call and my friend says, "Are you sitting down?" And I said, "Why?" He says, "This wire just came in. You got it." I'm okay, great. He says, "From Shohei Ohtani." I said, "Holy shit." I mean, that was a wow moment for me.
And did you think for a second, is it actually Shohei who's gambling, or did
Well,
you?
at that moment, I thought for sure it was Shohei Ohtani.
I'll pronounce your name well if you pronounce mine. Kidding.
Mariana.
Very good, Matthew.
Mathew.
Matthew. But it's actually Matt with one T.
It is.
which I was.
My parents knew I was going to be abnormal, so that's why they did
I love
that.
that.
They knew what they had on their hands right when I was born. Some
This is
lunatic.
going to be a little bit different.
Exactly. Did we drop him?
Matt, it's so good to have you here. For people who don't know who you are, you were the bookmaker at the center of a scandal that rocked Major League Baseball, taking bets from Shohei Ohtani's interpreter and running a gambling operation that moved millions and millions of dollars. And now you're actually just a few days from reporting to prison. Is that correct?
That's correct. 11 days.
11 days. So
Yeah.
in 11 days, you're going to show up in prison and.
My wife is going to drive me to the walls and drop me off like a kid at school. It's going to be very interesting. I've never been to prison, obviously, but I've been told that you expect to walk in with clothes you don't expect to walk out with. So wear junk, and as soon as you walk in, you're going to be stripped naked and opening your butt cheeks, excuse me, and being frisked every which way, and then sit down for like 2 hours while it takes a while to process
Mhm.
you, and it's a very interesting process.
Are you
Yes.
nervous?
I'm a little nervous about that, of course. I mean, I'm a man. I'll handle myself, but I'm more nervous about leaving my wife and kids behind. That's the hard part. I'm still really struggling. In fact, the last few days have been the hardest,
Mhm.
because I'm starting to realize it's so real and it's only a few days away. And it's like I'm so connected with my wife and I have such a good relationship with her and then my kids that
Right.
like the fact that we're not going to see each other every day and not, have those moments of like taking my son trick or treating and
Right.
Christmas and all those things is going to be really hard.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Is there some mental preparation or some therapist that you're seeing, something to get you ready for it?
I was required by the court to see a therapist
Mhm.
because I was labeled with mental health issues because the amount I was gambling, which I can't even argue. At first, I
Mhm.
laughed and I was like, "This is ridiculous." But now that I'm out of the storm and I don't gamble anymore, I realize how the numbers and the chaos I was doing that became like brushing my teeth
Mhm.
are so abnormal. I
Right.
mean, I knew they were abnormal, but I didn't realize I was moving, $1 billion in a year, as far as my business and the amount of gambling I was doing. And flying to Vegas every 2 weeks with $2 million is really not normal.
$1 billion a year? Is that what you estimate your
In
operations?
2023, my operation took over $1 billion in wagers. Yeah.
That's crazy. And you were, I mean, apart from running this large operation, you have admitted to the fact that you were an addict, a
Oh, no,
gambling
no
addict.
question. I have been since I was a young boy. I just didn't really, you never wanted to own that. It's like the word addict for me always made me feel like lower than or less than. So I didn't really start owning it until this happened. I always defended it and made excuses, and I was like, my wife would be like, "You have a gambling problem." I was like, "No, babe. I make all we do is get more money and make
Mhm.
nicer things, and I buy nicer homes and cars, and we never worried about money. So how could you say that?" That was my excuse. But the reality was, I was blowing millions of dollars and spending millions of dollars gambling
Yeah.
through bookmakers and casinos, and I just looked at it as part of my job. That was kind of my excuse.
And going back, you were sentenced to a year in prison, right?
Correct.
12 months, but
Right.
you're doing less than that, right?
Luckily, the judge was kind to me. He gave me a year and a day.
Uh-huh.
So for that reason, you can earn good time. If he gave me 1 year exactly or less, there's no good time.
I want to go back to the backstory of how this all started, but there was a moment that you actually thought you weren't going to do any time in prison because you thought while the trial was happening, you thought there was a chance that they would just let you go
House arrest.
on a house arrest to a house arrest, right?
Yeah. Basically, because the charges that I have it was a total of 18 years, but the maximums of everything are based on, you obviously having all these other former charges, or I've never been, in my life been arrested. I have a clean record. And to be honest with you, if you're raided by the feds, and you initially don't fight it, that helps your case a lot because they don't have to spend money to basically, have you plead guilty. So by saying I'm guilty right away and negotiating, basically I did everything they asked. I paid my restitution in full. It was a little under 1.7 million. I obviously answered anything that they needed me to do as far as I went to mental health therapy, Gamblers Anonymous. I checked in with my pretrial officer. All of our phones and computers were monitored the whole time for the last 2 years. And they would also come over and do a home check, home visit, they call it, go through your computers, make sure I'm still not bookmaking or running my operation, stuff like that. So I was very cooperative in that regard. That being said, my attorney did an amazing job of showing the government that I have reformed in a sense of I don't, run a bookmaking operation, but also I started speaking to kids at USC. I started a nonprofit. I worked with them. I've tried to serve the community. I've tried to help people with gambling addiction. We turned in about 15 letters to the judge, people that are going through addiction that I've inspired and helped in their own personal lives and problems. So we
that
tried to
helped
give
you.
back. Yeah, I think so.
Let's take it all the way to the beginning. So you grew up in Orange County,
Yeah,
right? Not
Cypress,
far from
California.
here. And you had a pretty happy childhood, I hear. Or
I think it was perfect.
yeah,
My first 12 years of my life was like I had three brothers, and my parents were loving. And, I have no excuses for,
right.
Some people blame their childhood or what. I can't do that.
But then something happened when you were 12, right?
Yeah, my dad was Vietnam vet, running multiple businesses, but he was a functioning alcoholic. So while we would, go to, let's say, wrestling practice or football practice, he would stay home and just drink all day, 40 beers a day, 3 packs of cigarettes, and he would eat one meal. And he was a cook, actually. So he would make us all, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, but he just wouldn't really eat. He would just drink. And he was such a functioning alcoholic, he was really never drunk. So it was like hard to say he had a problem, but it was very obvious he had a problem, right?
How was it obvious? So if it wasn't,
Well, I mean, because we would collect cans and go to CR&R and turn them in, and we were the family that would have literally 30 bags of trash bags of empty cans.
But did it affect his personality? I mean, would you get home and see him passed out on the couch?
No, that's what's weird. I mean, you would notice that he definitely didn't want to do much. Like for example, we had a river house. We go to we had a boat and jet skis and all the toys because my parents had money. And we would go to the river house, and my dad would, instead of taking us jet skiing or water skiing, he would want to sit in the house and just drink all day. And if he had to get up and actually go drive a boat, and, of course you could drink a beer while you're driving, but let's be real, he'd rather just sit there and do what he was doing. Yeah. So it was like, he just wasn't doing anything anymore. And then my mom got fed up with that because she would go to all these, my mom was, she still is, she's 75, a beautiful woman, to the point where it's actually, she was so pretty that all my friends would say, "Oh, your mom's the MILF," and they all thought she was the hottest thing in the world, and it was annoying. But then she would show up at like my baseball games or football games, and all the dads would be like checking her out, or they hit on her, and it, they thought she was single because my dad was never around.
There.
Yeah, but she just got tired of it, and she finally, after like 3 or 4 rehabs, she just shut it down and said it's over, and that's when my life changed drastically.
How so?
Well, I became a therapist to my mom, because my older brothers one was graduating high school, the other one was in high school, doing his thing. And my little brother was 8. So it wasn't like he was going to do much. So I was really close to my mom, and this is the part I think she handled wrong, but she would have me even interfere on phone calls with my dad because she couldn't get it. He kept calling, and he'd even show up at our house, and she wouldn't let him in, and he was drunk or whatnot. And so like I kind of became like Dr. Phil, at 12.
At 12, you're not ready at all.
Yeah, I didn't even know what was going on. And, I did, but I didn't. So I would interfere that. And then eventually they got divorced. And then my mom ended up losing the home. And the home that I lived in was kind of like, for me, it was like this place of safety. And all of a sudden, my whole life was changing. And so I think that's when I started really learning to hustle and learning to survive on my own, and go out and find ways to not ask my mom for money, because she started working like 3 jobs. She was never home.
And it turns out you were really good at hustling, right? You started by, one of the things you did that I was reading about is that you started selling magazines door to door, or no, the newspaper.
The Orange County Register.
The Orange County Register.
Yeah.
And while all the other kids would just like go door to door and get a quick yes or a quick no and leave,
Correct.
You had a whole spiel, and you were actually really good at selling.
I would just grind. There's no, you wouldn't outwork me. If I got you to open the door, I would make you feel bad at worst case if you weren't buying the paper for me, to the point where I'd say, look, I'm trying to win a trip for my mom, which I was, to Hawaii. And I'd say, look, if you take the paper, it's $7. This is like many, many years ago, $7 a month. I say, can you tell me right now that you can't take it for $7 and just take these coupons? Because back then they had a bulk of coupons.
Right.
I said, this is $40 in coupons. If you use even half of that, you're going to make money on this transaction.
Right.
So I would sell them on anything. And then I was this little boy, actually. I was the smallest kid in the school.
Were you?
Yeah, I didn't grow until after high school. So I had to really like use my personality
Right.
and be charismatic as possible. And I did that in sales anyway.
Uh-huh.
But that was my whole life. I was like overcoming what I deemed to be these adversities,
So you went from selling the OC register and then realizing you're pretty good at that to suddenly somebody introduced you to poker, or how did it move
My
to?
brothers were older than me, so I learned a lot from them, and
Huh.
they had a little hustle to them, not quite to my extent, but
Mm.
I just kind of sponged what they were doing.
Mhm.
And then I realized that all the kids in my neighborhood were coming to my house to like play Sega Genesis or Nintendo. And I said, why don't we play poker? And then I developed this poker game, and they just started coming over every day after school. And it started expanding and growing to the
And
point.
they would have to pay to play, or they were
Well,
just betting?
no, we were just betting. I didn't have a rake back
Okay.
then, but I didn't need one because I was so much better than them at playing poker that
Huh.
I just knew I would win money.
Did you
Or
practice? How did you become good?
no, just numbers I was really good with math. I've always been good with numbers. I've always been really, quick witted when it comes to cards or calculating odds or any of those things. So they just didn't quite have the same capacity as I did. And I just took advantage of that.
And so you started bringing them over, started betting, you started making a lot of money from their bets, right?
Yeah, from running the poker ring and then taking sports bets as well.
Oh, that started that early?
Oh, yeah.
So what,
Yeah.
12, 13, 14?
No, about 14, 15.
Okay.
16 is kind of when the poker ring was kind of big. And then I got busted with that because one of the moms found a little IOU cheat sheet, I call it, in a pocket when they're doing laundry. And then I came home to an
Wait,
intervention.
how much was that kid?
It was $340.
That he owed you?
Yeah, which this
Okay.
is back in 1990,
Yeah.
2 or 1, whatever it was. Actually, even earlier than that, like 90. And so it's a lot of money for a
Yeah.
high school kid. And so that broke I had a full intervention with like 4 moms of my house. I was like, oh no.
And they said what? And your mom's was like,
My mom was there and she basically shut the whole thing down.
do you think that she absolutely hated the idea, or was there a part of that thought, wow, he's so smart, he's making
I think
money
a
at
little
this
bit of
age?
both. She was embarrassed that, on her dime, let's call it, on her watch, even though she wasn't there,
Right.
this was happening. But I think deep down, she respected I was not asking her for money. And then to be honest, I was making probably more money than she was at
How much money
16,
were you making?
like 30, 40,000 a year.
At 16?
Yeah, because I had so many hustles going. The baseball card collection, I was selling marijuana, I had a poker ring, I was taking sports bets. I mean, there wasn't any hustle I wasn't doing.
What were you doing with that money at 16?
I mean, most of it, I bought my truck by myself, of course. So most kids got, at least in my neighborhood, either they got assistance getting a car or their parents bought them a car. I bought my truck
Uh-huh.
and then I put wheels and tires. I had it custom painted. I had tinted windows. I had all the kicks a 16-year-old guy would want. Anything I really wanted within reason, I was able to get myself.
Were your brothers jealous, or were they trying to figure
No, they were hustling too.
Either were.
Yeah, my brother Sean, he was 4 years older than me. He was kind of the one I learned a lot of hustle from, and so he was doing just fine. Yeah.
Wow, that's a lot of money. I mean, I have a 15-year-old son, so just
Okay.
the thought of him making $30,000-$40,000, which now would be about 60 or 70, right?
Probably more. Yeah.
Inflation or more.
Yeah.
A year is just crazy. And I think, yeah, like a part of me would probably be like, yeah, I'm proud that he's hustling and making money
Right.
at
As
this
long as it's
age.
legal.
As
Right?
long as it's
Yeah.
legal.
Yeah. And then that's the thing. Like back then, it wasn't like I was running this huge operation, but at the same time, like being a bookie or a
Mhm.
bookmaker, I didn't view myself as that. I just viewed myself as a kid hustling.
Mhm.
It wasn't like an actual business yet.
Well, what were some of the at that point? Some of the hustling was already illegal, right? Some of the hustle
Well,
was
the
illegal,
marijuana part was for
of
sure.
course.
Yeah.
But also, weren't you
Oh,
selling?
yeah. At 16, I worked at a Chevron,
Yeah.
and that was like my hub for selling marijuana. And then what I started doing, which is really embarrassing to say because I don't want my kids to do this,
Mhm.
but like back then they had gas cards. You remember those days when they had gas cards, right?
Absolutely.
They don't have those anymore. So a guy would come in or a woman or whatever, and she would say number 12, and then she would get gas and they would leave. Well, they left their card.
Mm.
And so I would be like, all right, my shift ends at 10 o'clock at night, whatever. And if they don't come back for the card, I would just take it like a total loser. And I would just go around to other gas stations, Chevrons, and I would call my friends and say, hey, you guys want gas?
Mm.
Come up here. I'll fill up your tank for half the price. So they might get, let's call it $50 in gas. They pay 25. I put it in my pocket.
Right.
Here I am just running up this card. And then I would go buy cigarettes,
Mhm.
cartons of cigarettes, because I knew what cigarettes we would sell the most of, Marlboro, Red Box, or whatever. I didn't smoke. And then I would come into my shift and I would sell my cigarettes at their gas station.
Huh.
So instead of ringing it up, for let's call it $3 or whatever it was back then, I would just sell the cigarettes and just keep the cash, but it wouldn't get me in trouble because the cigarettes that they had on my shift were still there. It wasn't like I was stealing from them,
Yeah.
but obviously I was stealing from these cards, which is a crime. But I was hustling and I viewed it as like funny, even though it wasn't funny. And I viewed it as like an edge. And I've always chased that short, easy window, the low hanging fruit,
Mhm.
even though it's a hustle. And I'm not proud of those moments, but
Mhm.
I'm just honest about them.
Did your mom know any of this was happening?
Not until later. Yeah. Probably not in this one, probably not until about 2 years ago when I first started telling people the truth about it. But as far as the poker ring, of course, she knew the marijuana. I got kicked out of the house for that. So she knew of that.
Right.
But most of the hustles were, the Orange County Register and all that kind of stuff. She knew of all of that, of
Mm.
course. But as far as all of it, the whole grand scheme of it, she really didn't know a lot of it until she read
Mhm.
my book.
Mhm. Did you go to college?
No, I was at 18. I got my ex-wife pregnant, and I had to become a man real fast and grow up. So college was not even in my wheelhouse
So what
whatsoever.
did you do for work at the time?
At the time, I worked. So right when I got kicked out of my house, I moved out and we got an apartment.
And you got kicked out for the marijuana.
Yeah, I came back from a senior trip. Back then they had the senior trips for high school, and I actually got kicked out of my mom's house. So about 3 weeks later, I moved into my friend's house, and his mom, when I got home from the senior trip, had the scale and a pound of weed laid out, and I walk in. This is really pride swelling because it's not even my house, and I walk in and she's like, "Whose is this?" And of course, it's not my friend, so I have to own that, which is really embarrassing. So of course I was asked to leave that house, which was embarrassing because all the moms liked me
Mhm.
despite my hustle
Mhm.
because, I was nice to them and a good person. I just was making some poor choices. And so then now I had to make a decision. So my girlfriend, who I met at 15, her name was Monica, who I was married to for quite some time, we decided to move into an apartment in Huntington Beach, California. So we had a roommate because we couldn't afford it. So we got a 2 bedroom and it was like, back then it was like $750 a month. I remember for rent. And even that was a lot to us, because now I have a real job. So I had to go get a job at the John Wayne Airport at 6 to 2. I worked there stocking the gift shops and magazines and candies and stuff. And then from there, I would drive straight to Irvine, California and work for Massimo Clothing Company
Mhm.
from 2:30 to 10. So I have these 80-hour weeks. And on the weekends, I would just go blow all my money gambling through bookies and racetracks because I
So you were
love
already
gambling.
gambling at the time.
Oh yeah. So, but small, because, I had just enough to pay rent and eat and get gas, but yet I used to make more money
Mhm.
2, 3 years ago when I was running a poker ring and taking sports bets and all this stuff, but I had no money.
Mhm.
So I couldn't like take sports bets and it wasn't really my thing because I didn't have that, I didn't have the surroundings to build a client base like I did in high school. And so at 18, I'm like, this is miserable. So I think we signed a 6-month lease. And then within 6 months, we find out that she's pregnant.
Oof.
So I'm like, okay, here I am 18. I can't even take care of myself.
Mhm.
I'm not married. And I've been with this woman for 3 years. She's an amazing person, but I'm not ready to get married
Mhm.
or raise a child. But she's very religious and her family is definitely not going to allow an abortion, which I totally respect, even though that in my mind, that was the first instinct just because I couldn't even fend for myself. But I'm so glad that we didn't because I have this amazing, beautiful girl that is now 30 years old. But the point is, we made a decision. I said to her, I said, look, we got to move back in with my mom and I got to get a real job. I mean, a real job, not these little petty minimum wage jobs. So my mom lost our house
Mm.
and she moved to Dana Point, California in a mobile home park, which is really pride swallowing because I viewed a mobile home park as white trash and anyone who has a mobile home, that's not what I mean, but it's just how I viewed it. So I had to move into a mobile home park and my little brother was in one room, my mom was in the other. And so Monica and I slept on the couch.
Wow.
And here we are. I'm 18. She's pregnant. I don't have a job. So what do? I go to the local areas in Dana Point. It's kind of a affluent area in Orange County, and there's a restaurant opening. So I walk into this restaurant, and the GM sits me down and do an interview. He says, "Okay, I'll give you an opportunity, but I can't hire you as a waiter because you have no experience." I'm like, "Well, what am I gonna do?" And he says, "You could be a busboy and work your way up." I'm like, "A busboy? Okay, that's not what I came here for, but at least I have an opportunity to move up. So I take the job, and then about 3 months go by, and I'm out performing the waiters by getting more tips than them.
Hmm.
Because even though I'm not
As a busboy?
as a busboy,
Huh.
because when I go to the tables, I would be the one who would direct traffic and
Huh.
conversation, even though I wasn't bringing them their food.
Mhm.
I would make up for any little things I could find. Because what I've always tried to do, my family raised me to just be number one at whatever you do.
Mhm.
That doesn't matter if you're, sweeping the floors. My dad was very militant. There wasn't a speck of the floors. We had to wash the floors. He'd come over and, we'd have to do it again or whatnot. So I was raised properly in that regard.
Mm.
So when I was a busboy, I mean, I cleaned your table. I came over, I refilled your water. I made sure your chips and salsa were full. But more importantly, I would have conversation with everybody and just try to use my personality. And I started building relationships to the point where the customers would come in and ask to sit in my section,
Oh, wow.
but I didn't have a section
Huh.
because a busboy kind of
Right.
roams. So like, well, he's not even a waiter, and they were literally asking for me, which was really flattering. So in this process, I built a relationship with this couple, and they were Indian, but they spoke. Well, he spoke with a very strong British accent, and he had a beautiful watch, and she was very attractive, and they just you could feel the sense of these people have their shit together.
Mhm.
So I end up having good conversation, and about the third or fourth time they come in, his wife, she says to me, "Would you like a job opportunity?" And I said, "I would love one." I said, she goes, "You don't even know what it is." I said, "I don't care. I don't want to serve chips and salsa." So she, "Why don't you come down for an interview?" So I get in my little beat up car and I drive because I ended up selling my truck because I
Mhm.
lost to bookies and I was broke. So we have this little hoopty car. We drive to Irvine, California, and I had to go get a little tie at Marshall's because I didn't even have that. And I walk into this company, or I should say, I pull up, and there's like Mercedes and Ferraris out front. And I'm just like, it had this corporate feel. It's a beautiful building, right? Glass everywhere. And I walk through, and as I walk through, there's this glass of the floor of the company of what they're doing. And I don't know what they're doing. It's just young guys in ties that are just screaming, yelling, have headsets on, just the feel of like this. I mean, I literally got goosebumps just walking in there. So I go to this interview, and he just belittles me for an hour and a half.
The
The
Indian
same guy
guy?
who was so kind, who I thought I was going to meet to just have this
Right.
great interview. His name was Mickey.
What was he
And
saying to you?
he says to me, he's looking at my little cheap resume that, you probably got on a
Mm.
little typewriter. And he says to me, "Let's see, you have a zero college experience. Okay, that's not good. You told me that you knocked up your girlfriend. Okay. You have zero experience in sales, really. Okay. Why should I hire you? And why have you made all these poor choices already in your life?" And he just hammered me, right? And I really didn't have many answers, but I was kind, and I would just say, "Look, I'm young and I'm figuring my life out." So after the interview, I go home and I'm like, "There's no way I got that job." They call me back and say,
Mm.
"Come back for another interview," about a week later. So I drive down there and I'm like, "Oh, this is weird." I get in the interview, and about 20 minutes into it, he's just same thing. And I just stood up and I said, "Mickey, I need to tell you something. There's nobody here that's going to work harder than me. If you want to hire somebody who's from Harvard, go for it. They have a degree, they have all this education. But you just told me that this is a sales position. And last I checked, sales is about grind, determination, and saying the right things, the right fluctuation, and understanding the customer. These are things that I've already learned in life. I was the number one Orange County, so I started defending
You told
myself,
him the
right?
newspaper story. Good.
Yeah. And he says, "You know what? I'm going to give you an opportunity. This is what I was looking for,
Oh.
a little dog in you."
Mm.
I said, "Okay." So he hires me. I had no idea what the job was. I didn't even care. So I'm running his mailroom, and the mailroom operation was $1,200 a month,
Mhm.
60 hours a week, which is a lot of hours for $1,200,
Mm.
but it was a big increase for me, $1,200. So I drive down to this company, and I didn't realize that I was his personal assistant.
Mm.
So not only am I running the mail operation, because back then there was no internet, right? So let me tell you what it was. It was a commodity brokerage firm. So Wolf of Wall Street was exactly what this was, but
Wow.
legal.
Mhm.
So here I am. I'm the first contact, because there's no internet, to the company. So when someone calls, I would do like a little like simple dialect, and then if they wanted to talk to a broker, I would kind of set it up and then send it to a broker.
Mm.
But we had headsets, and then when I would send it to the broker, instead of I was supposed to hang up. I
You'd
didn't think
stay on
I'd
and
stay
you'd
on the
listen.
call.
Oh,
I'd sponge it and I would
smart.
learn. And then of course, if there's no other phone calls, I'd stay on the entire,
Wow.
and I would take notes and I would learn.
Mhm.
And so about 6 months go by, and now I've been taking the Series 3 exam. I took a photocopy of it. and I've been studying it on the weekends because I just wanted this so bad. This is my first chance in life, like real success. And that's all I wanted. So I'm studying this book, and I've never been to college, but it's the 7th hardest test in the nation.
Huh.
And I study this thing, and I have these flashcards. And my ex-wife is literally about to pop, and I'm so motivated. I'm just hungry, right? So I go up to Mickey, and I hand him these flashcards, and I say, I want to take the Series 3 exam. And he says, we don't do that until you're an assistant broker. And once you're an assistant broker, you're working hard. I'm really impressed. I said, no, I don't think you understand. I can pass. And he says, when you're an assistant, I'll let you take it. And I said, how about this? If I don't pass the exam, I'll quit, or you could fire me. He's like, you're going to risk everything that you've just built? I said, absolutely. So he grabs the flashcards and he reads me a few, and he's like, okay. And I answered him, of course. He says, all right, I'll give you a chance, kid. So I go take the exam. I pass barely. I got a 72 and 83.
Wow.
You have to have a 70 on both parts, and the rules and regulations wasn't my thing, but I passed. And I'm 18 years old, I have a baby coming any day, and I'm just driving back to this company, and it's like this first taste of real success for me. And I just knew that was the start of my life. Yeah.
And you became a broker right there?
No, so I came back, and he immediately let me hire someone. Well, he hired someone. I got to train them, which only lasted maybe a month.
As an assistant to the main guy?
Yeah. And then I went and became, here's where I got another break. All the hard work I put in, he put me for the top broker. So it wasn't just any broker, literally the top guy. So now I have this sponge of what I've already learned, and now I'm working for the best guy.
Yeah.
So I work for him, and we're number one every single month, which he kind of already was, but we never missed a beat. And a year goes by, and here comes my second break. We're losing a lot of business to, because we were charging $95 for a trade, which is very expensive. Now it's like $1. We were getting a lot of business, leaving to discount firms. And he says, I'm going to open a brand new company. I want you to run it. So I'm like, because we really built a great relationship and rapport. And I said, I'm honored, of course. When could we start? And he's like, next week. So I opened this company called New Hall Discount.
With the number one broker?
No, he stays.
Oh, so
I'm opening it with one other broker. It's me and another young kid, actually. A little older than me. I think he was like 26, but I was literally not even, I think I was just turned 19. So I go out and I open that. Now I'm on my own. So all the clients I bring in are mine. And so I'm building my book of business, right? And then a year later, I was the number one retail broker in the world.
In the world?
In the world. I broke every record in commissions as a retail commodity trader. So for the next 11 years, I went to Chicago. I ran Chicago office, which I can give you a really amazing story.
Can you explain to me what a retail commodities broker does exactly?
Of course. So let's say you want to buy soybeans, crude oil, gas. We traded everything. Pork bellies. Movie Eddie Murphy is in, Trading Places, right? That's what we did.
Yeah.
But you would call us, and then we would buy or sell the transaction. Let's call it 10 contracts of soybeans for argument's sake. And then we would go to the exchange and buy it, give you the price, and then we facilitated all the transactions. And we would get a commission for each one.
And why do you think you were so good at that?
I think just the grind I learned at early age to hustle. And then what I was really good at is mirroring the customer. A lot of people will hang up on you, or, they just try to get you off the phone. And I found little measures to kind of drop their guard, so we can have a conversation. And, it might be a conversation of not even about what I'm selling you.
It's so interesting to me because so many of the people that I speak to, I mean, I'm sure this is not going to shock you, but so many of the people I speak to in sort of the illegal realm of the world are very, very talented. They're very good, and they start with that talent, and then they sort of go another way. They deviate.
Yeah, right around 21 years old is when I started deviating.
What happened?
Because I still had this love for gambling. See, gambling for me is a problem because it was my form of escape. I didn't drink much. I never did drugs. I never even tried drugs, even though I sold some weed. I just wasn't into that. So sports betting was the deadly combo for me. I love sports, and I love the rush of gambling. Well, there's no better combo for a guy like me than that. So I would always lose money to bookies. I would go to the racetrack. And then as I became more successful, that got heightened.
As a broker, you were
Correct.
becoming more successful as a broker, and you started gambling more.
At 21, I made $700,000 a year. So I actually purchased the home that my parents lost and moved into it at 21. So my 2-year-old daughter was sleeping in my old bedroom, and I was in my parents' room. It was a little eerie at first, but it was such a prideful moment for me. I had a black Mercedes SL. I was, all the kids in my neighborhood. Now I grew. I was much bigger. I was more attractive. I was just like everything was going for me. My wife and I were expecting another baby, and just my world was perfect in that regard. The white picket fence family.
Mhm.
But I had this love for gambling, and I started taking bets throughout my office because I had,
Mm.
if you think about this, picture the Wolf of Wall Street. You have guys that are 21 to 50 who make more money than 99% of Americans,
Mhm.
who have gambling problems slash drug problems slash cocaine, hookers, all the above, because that's that lifestyle they were living.
Right.
And I was like, you know what? I don't do any of those things, but I love gambling. So I'll just start taking their bets. And then I started making a lot of money doing that.
And that's how it started.
That's how it started.
So you come into the office and say, hey guys, who wants to bet on the game this weekend?
I didn't have to say it. They come to me. I'd be at my desk and they come over and say, what's the line on the Packers? I'd say, oh, -6. Give me 5,000 on it. All right. And I write it down.
Huh.
Now, keep in mind, this is before the internet was really coming into fruition.
Mhm.
So now I'm taking these bets myself, just like on pad of paper, right? And these guys always paid because they made a lot of money. I didn't have to worry about, problems like that. And so fast forward, all of a sudden the internet comes along.
Mhm. And wait just a second. So you were taking a cut from these bets at this point?
No, I was the house. I was the casino. There's no cut. So in other words, whatever bets they made, I was responsible for them winning or losing.
Oh yeah, if they lost, the money was yours, of course.
Yeah, and if they won, I would pay them. But because in sports betting, for those people that don't understand how sports betting works, it's -110. Every time you make a bet,
Mhm.
you have to risk $11 to make 10. And that's the vig or the juice that eats people alive over time, right? So even if they win 10 grand this week, they're going to lose probably 20 the next, or 6 months from now, they're still going to be in the hole most likely because of the vig is going to eat them up over time. And that's how the house wins.
Right, that's what I was going to say, which is why the house always wins.
Correct. And it's no different than blackjack and
Mhm.
craps and roulette. The
Right.
vig is set in to where they have an edge, and that's
Right.
that edge over time is why I used to lose and why everyone loses.
Right.
I mean, 1%, less than 1% can win betting sports in the world.
So what was the peak that money that you were making at that point still, when you were still a broker and you were still just...
As a broker, I never really made more than like $1 million, $1.2 million.
No, but I mean with the sports betting.
Well, so when you fast forward, I started making more on the bookmaking operation, and that's when at 30 years old is when I decided to walk away from commodities.
So you were still in commodities, still a broker for 9 years, 10 years.
Actually, from 19 to 30, I was in that business. Yeah.
Okay, 11 years.
And I did it because it gave me a W-2 paycheck,
Mhm.
which I paid federal taxes.
Mhm.
I could buy a house. And the business that I was running, never saw it. I mean, everything I do, I expect to be the best, but I never saw it as a business. It was more a hobby. It was like something I enjoyed. My business was being a commodity trader
Mhm.
and eventually running my own firm, which I started at 28. Here I am running a legal business that I feel is immoral,
Mhm.
but yet I loved my legal business, which was to me very moral,
At the time. Why
even to this day.
why was the brokering business immoral in your opinion?
90% of the people that invested lost,
Hmm.
literally. And so we were selling them. We weren't doing anything illegal, but we were selling them a bag of goods that I just didn't agree with.
Right.
And it grinded on me. So as a young man, I wanted to feed my family, and all I cared about was, hey, this is legal. I kind of compartmentalized it like, oh, this isn't bad. Over time, it would eat at me because you're calling a 70-year-old farmer in Iowa, and let's say his retirement's $1 million. And my job was to try to get as much money as I can from him to send in to trade in the markets, knowing that almost more than likely he's going to lose.
Yeah. I mean, that's almost like what scammers do, right?
It is,
What,
and
like
it's
you're
legal,
selling-
and they had every right. Here's the one good thing: they had every right to say no. They had every right to make a decision on what we were investing in. But at the end of the day, we were leading them to the water, to drink it. And to this day, I still didn't really love or appreciate any part of the business, other than the fact that I was making a lot of money, and I thought I was doing something so cool. And I watched the movie Wall Street with Charlie Sheen, and I felt like Charlie Sheen at the end. Like he was just involved in something that was illegal. It's a little different, but it felt illegal,
Yeah,
But yet here I am running this other business that is illegal,
but
that I
feels
love,
right.
and all my clients
Yeah.
love me. Like when I say love me, I mean they didn't like losing money to me, but they chose to do it. They made all the bets. I don't push them into anything. I don't call and say, "Hey, Mariana, let's buy 20 contracts of soybeans." you would call me and say,
Like, please let me put
let
some
me
money on
let me
that.
bet on this. And guess
Right.
what? Most of them, it was entertainment.
Mhm.
Most of them. Of course, some clients got out of control. They would lose more money than they should have, and it became a problem. I'm not saying that it was perfect because it wasn't, but the ones in general for that, I had some of these clients for 25 years,
Wow.
literally. I mean, when I went in front of the federal judge, I'm not joking. I had 30, 40 people that were willing to write a letter. They lost $1 million to me and said, this guy is fantastic. He's done nothing to me. I've lost a lot of money. I don't care. I chose to do
He
this.
pays on time. He doesn't lie.
Uh,
He
but
gets me what I want.
that wouldn't help me. So I had
Right.
to tell them, don't bother.
Right.
But my
Right.
point is, that's
Yeah.
how morally it felt to me.
It's you're at the crossroads of your life at this point, and you could have chosen the legal yet what felt immoral
Right.
versus the illegal, but at the
Sure.
time what felt right for you to do, and
Yeah,
you picked with what was right.
I
Did
did.
you? Was there any part of you at the time that realized obviously this might feel right, but it's still illegal, and
Oh, definitely.
I'm like
Yeah.
playing with fire here?
Here's the thing, like, looking back, I realized that I have the talents that I could have done so many other things.
Yeah.
And that's where I made a poor choice. The poor choice was to not do commodities and not do, illegal bookmaking because neither one felt good for me.
Hmm.
One was illegal. That's why it didn't feel good.
Yeah.
And the other one was legal, but didn't feel good. Right. But when you're young and you have a child coming and you just, I'm not making excuses. I'm accountable for my actions, but I'm trying to give you some answer on maybe where my mind was at the time. Just go work hard, make money, feed your family, do the right thing. And then the other poor choice came later was like, okay, I don't really like this, but why did I choose something illegal? Well, the reason I chose it is because I love sports and gambling, and it also made me a lot of money and it was feeding my lifestyle. So
Right.
selfishly, I loved it.
Mhm.
But with my talents, I could have easily been a CEO of freaking Verizon or something. There's no
You wouldn't
reason.
be sitting here right now. Yeah.
No.
Then
But I also,
you wouldn't be going to prison either.
you're right. And truly, even though everyone asks me, do you have regrets? I'm like, anyone who says they have no regrets is really lying to you because we all have regrets. But I understand why people say they don't have regrets because it does make you who you are and mold you to the person you are. So like there's a part of me that is glad I've chose these poor decisions because I feel like I'm the best human being of myself today, the best father, the best husband, the best person. But I still believe if I made better choices, I still could end up in the same seat being this person or even better.
Right.
So it's hard. It's a really
Of
tough,
course.
thing to answer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And tell me when it was growing, so your bookmaking operation was growing. I find it a fascinating world, and I think most people don't understand quite how it works.
Sure.
So paint the picture for me. How exactly does it work?
Okay.
So you left brokering, and then
Right.
you start this. Did you have a company? Because it very much operated like a company. Did it have a name? Was it
Yeah.
organized like that?
I mean, to a degree, you can't advertise, you don't have a business card, but
Right.
I was a CEO of a very large corporation. There's no doubt about it. And I ran it that way. So when I was 30, that's when I really decided, okay, I'm going to do this full time. There's no other job. This is my income. Then I really put my 100% into it. And once the internet came, is when I knew I could scale it. And I saw that opportunity. I was one of the first bookmakers to go to Costa Rica and set up a per head shop, they call it, which basically means they facilitate all my actions. So everything was run through the hub in Costa Rica. That's what made it a little bit legal.
So these are gambling sites that they had in Costa Rica
Correct.
that already existed, and you went down there and you sort of made a contract with them.
Correct. No, you're right. I went down there and I said, look, I want to start my own website
Uh-huh.
because I wanted my website to be specifically for me. And the reason for that is there was a lot of people having these problems. Let's say that you opened a website and let's say you're a person that had no integrity and didn't pay your customers. If I'm using that same website, that website gets known throughout the industry and the community. Oh, if you bet with this website, you don't get paid.
Right. And reputation is everything.
Yeah,
That's
so
business,
much.
of
It's
course.
actually the only thing really
Right.
in that business. So I wanted my own website because I first started on what they call a platform. It was called Data Wager, and Data Wager was where like a million bookies were using it. Well, again, that's the problem I started seeing. So then I went down there and said, I want to start my own. So I created my own. It was called breakthebookie.net. And I wanted the customer to feel like they could beat the bookie,
That's great.
So I started that.
Very smart.
Right. And that took off. And then I started developing more websites because I wanted different platforms for my customers. I want to give them options. I wanted to also I had an online casino that had, imagine cameras on us right now. And you have a blackjack table, a roulette table, a craps table, and they could see live dealing so that when they would bet, the cards were live. There's no cheating. And the dealer would talk to you. So you would say on your phone or computer, hi, Mariana. And the dealer would say, hi, Matt. literally and wave to you. So you knew it was real.
Was that something that didn't exist at the time?
No, not then.
It exists now,
It
right?
does. And it took a while. I would say maybe 10 years ago, that's about when that started. And so we were the first to develop all these things because they had online blackjack and stuff, but it was just looking at a screen and everyone thought it was being rigged because you don't see it. So we decided to develop a way where you could see it.
Yeah.
So to get, a portal where you can go online and actually feel like you're not being, robbed.
Robbed, yeah.
They loved it.
Yeah.
And so that took off too. And so now, as you know, I mean, fast forwarding to today's economy, they have everything. But my websites had most of these things early days. So I was able to offer things that other bookmakers weren't.
So you had the casino, you had, what else did you have? You had
Well,
sports betting?
Yeah, casino. We even had poker for a little while, but that was kind of a disaster
Mhm.
because getting people to a poker table, at certain times and all that. But mainly it was I took every sports there was. I mean, it was soccer, cricket.
And was it different websites for different sports, or was it all in the
No,
same?
they all had the same thing, but they were just different platforms. And the reason why is, let's say you were a customer of mine and you just kept losing to me and you're kind of fed up and I could feel it. I'd say, Mariana, why don't you try this other website? Different, it's just to change it up because I knew that you're close to shutting it down, or maybe you're just feeling that this is unlucky because let's be honest, superstition is very big in gambling. So I would convert you to a different website.
So, Matt, at this point, you started making a lot of money, right? What was the most amount? What was like your peak? How much money were you making?
My peak was 2023. I made, I think, 16 million that year.
Wow.
But that was my peak year.
And how did you launder? Like, how did you wash this money?
That was,
How do you clean it?
I think as a bookmaker, that was the biggest challenge, actually. People don't realize that. They think, I mean, you have to know what you're doing. You got to vet customers. There's a lot of nuances to running this business, especially at this level. But I had to move $5 to $7 million every Monday throughout the country
to pay for bets for people who won and
lost.
Yeah.
And I had about 1,200 clients at my peak, but I know a lot of bookmakers that had 3,000 clients, but the volume wasn't even a tenth of what I was doing because I had more high celebrities, athletes, people that are known that would come to me because I would take bigger bets than most people.
Did you have people that you turned away that wanted to bet with you, but you said no?
Only if they were known as a professional or a sharp, they call it. A sharp is a word that we use for guys who actually win. And that's a person that basically runs algorithms. They run robot algorithms that run this simulates a game.
Is it easy to spot them?
Oh, yeah. It's in 2 seconds.
Because they start winning a lot and you realize, okay, this guy's probably...
It's not even that they're winning a lot. We know they're going to win a lot. They start betting on a Wednesday, a game that's going off on a Sunday. They're betting 5 days in advance, and the line that they bet moves drastically. So let me give you an example. Let's say a college football game, UCLA is playing USC this weekend, just as argument's sake. Let's say the spread is -7, okay? Their computer will run the system down 1,000 different ways based on the referees, the wind, everything things you would never even think of, right? And it runs it down, and it'll spit out a number on all these variances. It'll say -3, -2, like it's basically telling you all these different ways that this line is wrong. It shouldn't be -7. So now if you know you're getting 7 and they have like a 4 or 5 point edge, that's massive in a sports bet, right? So basically they'll just come in and they'll bet +7 on my website.
Right. You're like,
and they're betting on a Wednesday. Well, a normal gambler doesn't do that. They bet on Saturday morning, an hour before the game goes off.
Right.
Or 5 minutes before it's on TV.
Yeah, because you don't know what can happen until then, right? The player can get injured, or
That's
I don't know, whatever.
100%.
Weather can change.
Yeah, or as a degenerate gambler,
Right.
you don't even care about that game until it's on TV.
Right.
You're not worried about what's happening next Saturday.
Right.
You're worried about what's happening today.
Yeah.
So they're easy to pick off.
Okay, so those you would say no to, but that's about it. If people had money, they would come and bet. You'd say yes.
The only time I would really say no to is if like the referral is not a strong referral. For example, if you have a guy who doesn't have a really good pay history with you, and he all of a sudden is referring some big customer, it's like,
I mean, I'm sure a lot of your customers actually had huge gambling issues,
Of
right?
course.
And would you ever turn them down, knowing that they're about to lose their house or have whatever major family problems? Would there ever part of you that was, okay, this is not right, I don't feel good, even though he's willing to pay millions of dollars?
I don't want to sit here and act like I'm an angel because I'm not, but I had a lot of clients that were betting more money than they could afford. No question. But I wasn't in need of money so bad that I would just watch someone just bury themselves and hurt their life to the point. In fact, I've even told people, I'm like, look, you're losing way too much. I know we have a 10-year history. I know that you can't afford this. Let's just cut it back. let's instead of a 2,000 a game, how about I give you $500 a game? Let's lower your credit line and keep it more reasonable.
Hmm.
Because I know in the long run that they're going to lose money.
Right.
But listen, if you,
And it's better for you too, right?
it is,
Because you can keep them for longer.
yes. And listen, if you have a guy, a plumber, great example, nothing wrong with being a plumber. In fact, I'm going to prison, so I wish I was a plumber. But the point is, if he makes $70,000 a year and he spends $5,000 of that gambling, that's probably affordable. But if he loses 30,
Right.
it's going to affect his life.
Right.
And even though I would like to make 30,000 off of someone, of course, that's why I was running a business, I would prefer him to pay me 5,000 over the next 10 years and make 50. And it doesn't affect his life. He has fun. Nobody gets hurt. His family's fine. So that's a sweet spot, right? And you have to find a way as a bookmaker to also train your employees, my agents and sub-agents, to understand how to do that. And it's difficult
How many
because
people do you have working for you?
I had 48 agents,
48.
yeah, across the country, and then they had sub-agents under them. So
Wow.
maybe 200 total, but
So these were people that were dealing with the people placing the bets,
yes,
right?
yes,
The agents and the sub-agents.
correct.
And you were basically sort of the kingpin of the whole operation,
100%,
making sure that things were running smoothly, kind of like the CEO of the operation.
a million percent.
And if people didn't pay, so I did a story on traffic on the Nat Geo show about illegal gambling,
Right.
actually. And I've spent a lot of time in illegal gambling dens, everything from dice to what are called the casitas here.
Uh-huh.
And have you heard of this? They play
Yeah.
the fish game.
Yeah,
and
I haven't seen it, but I've heard of it.
right. It's really a
Wild, actually.
fascinating world.
It
Yeah.
is.
To actually high-end poker games. I went to one in a high rise in Los Angeles. I went to one in a Beverly Hills mansion. It was insane. But I remember speaking to she used to be a woman called the Queen. She calls herself the Queen of Poker. She used to be a dealer in Vegas, and she realized that she can make a lot more money by
Running a poker game.
running a poker game.
Sure.
And I asked her, because it's all done by credit. It's not as if people go around with hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of
Correct.
money in their pocket. So how do you make sure that people pay you? Because it's credit. And she said, well, right now I'm owed $500,000. And she wasn't a big, she's called the
Right.
Queen of Poker, but it's not.
That's a big figure
It's
for
not,
her.
yeah, that's for her is a big figure. $500,000. And how do you make sure people pay you? And they have enforcers. And I asked a bunch of people in that story, and yeah, they talked about enforcers. If
Right.
there's a Russian group running a Russian poker game, you bet your ass
Yeah,
there's
otherwise
a
it'd be a big
Russian
problem.
informer.
Yeah,
you
which
know.
which they don't mess around.
Right.
I mean, there's different cliques for each. Like, for example, the Armenians have their Armenians. It's very
Yeah.
true.
Yeah. And so did you have enforcers, or how do you make sure that people paid?
When I was younger, I was the enforcer.
Hmm.
I was in much better shape. I was
You're in great shape, Matt.
well, I try. It's hard at 50. Thank you. But when I was younger, I was in really good shape, and I was like, I'm already overly confident alpha male. Let's be real. My ego's already big enough. But it was really big then, to the point where I thought I was indestructible.
So
which was
you'd show up at people.
I
and
would
say,
just show
"If
up
you-
myself.
If you don't pay.
Yeah, and then I would usually I had a friend of mine that was Samoan. He was about 6'6",
Uh-huh.
tattoos all over his face, and he just looked like he would eat a person for lunch.
Did you beat people up?
No, I didn't have to do that because that would get me put in prison. And to be honest, I never resorted to violence ever. I wouldn't anyway. To be honest, I would portray that.
Mhm.
I would portray that this could get ugly. I would never say anything like, "Oh, I'm gonna physically harm you," but I would definitely make them feel that
Uh-huh.
if they don't communicate or work this out, there's gonna be a problem.
Mhm.
But I never actually hurt people or put my hands on people. I'm a father. At the end of the day, as I get older, what I realized, if I gave you too much credit, I started blaming myself.
Mhm.
It's on me, and that was easier to walk away from. But when I was younger, I was more like, my reputation is everything, and I got to send a message that I can't be screwed with, and that went away very
So
fast.
you didn't really do that when
No.
you were running the bigger
No,
operation.
because I would end
How
up in
did you
prison.
make sure that people paid you?
I just walked away from a lot of debt. Right now, when the feds raided me, I had to walk away from $44 million.
Hmm.
That's owed to me right now currently that I can't collect.
How much? Sorry.
$44 million.
Holy shit!
Yeah.
That much money is.
Yeah. $24 million is owed by the interpreter by himself,
Right.
Ipe Mizuhara.
Right.
But there was another $20 million owed to me on the streets that I had to walk away from. And if I collected any of that, I would be committing a crime.
So
And
you can't.
the IRS
So even
told
though
me-
you owe the government money right now, you can't actually use the money that's owed to you to pay that debt.
I actually asked them with my lawyer. I had a gentleman that wanted to pay, and it was literally just under $1 million. And he wanted to pay. He was being honorable. And I said to the IRS agent, or I should say the prosecutor, can we have him pay directly to the IRS on my behalf?
Mhm.
And they said, absolutely not.
Hmm.
So there was not even a question.
It seems silly to me, right? Because the government would benefit from this. At least if there's money coming. This guy
Absolutely.
obviously did something wrong. He knew he was betting illegally. Let him pay because
And it would have really helped my situation because right now I'm paying $56,000 a month in interest on 2023 2024 tax return and 23, excuse me.
right that you didn't pay, which was one of the things that you were.
Well, no, I paid. I didn't file that yet. So what I got charged for was my 2022.
Right.
But when I got rated,
So wait, just to go back to the
yeah,
2022, you filed that you had made how much money that
I
money
filed
that
that
year?
year. I think I paid $680,000 in taxes,
But you had actually made
4.6 million.
million, yeah.
Yeah, and the reason for that, just to be clear, remember I have properties, I have a family, I have I had to pay taxes.
Mhm.
Number one, for my lifestyle. Number two, you can't buy a house or do anything without having a tax return. So I filed as a professional gambler. That particular year, I lost over $4 million in the casinos. So my CPA filed as a professional gambler, and we wrote off my losses against my profits of my business. They wouldn't allow that. The IRS said that that's unacceptable because it's running an illegal business, and you can't offset your gambling losses against your gambling business
Got it.
because it's illegal.
Uh-huh.
So my tax return charge, it's called a falsified tax return. It's different than tax evasion. Tax evasion is when you just say, screw you, don't pay, right? I was paying. I paid a lot of taxes. I just didn't pay the proper amount in their eyes.
Right.
And so I want to be clear that it wasn't, tax evasion is a big difference.
Right. So you're getting these people putting really high bets. By the way, are other people having people threatening them with violence in the business, or is this something that you heard about?
It happens, yes.
Yeah.
It's no different than a guy selling you've seen people get shot in Los Angeles for $100 in a weed transaction.
We actually had an altercation when we were filming in the high rise for the illegal poker game where we're not to this day sure what happened, but we were there filming.
Okay.
And initially we were able to get into the room, and there were 3 tables with these guys. But it was, I think, a mix of like professional poker players,
Okay.
amateurs, a lot of the poker girls, but it was mainly just the men playing. And I was told some members of some criminal organizations, like cartel members and whatnot, were people fast money, right? You make fast money from drugs, you go and spend that fast money. So there was a lot of that. And then we were just on the side sort of entrance,
Okay.
filming an interview. I believe it was with the poker queen, the queen of poker. And when we suddenly hear shouting, and I looked, and there was a guy who takes out a gun and points at the other guy and starts yelling at it. And I was told later, it had something to do with somebody owing money. So yeah, I'm sure I know that there's violence around this. And I think that is probably what scares the government the most, right? It's the illegal money that you're making. Yeah, the money that's not being taken by the government.
Right.
Untaxed money. But it's also the violence around it, because there's a lot of people who are killed because of debts.
Sadly, I think your first answer is the more accurate one, which is they're not getting their cut.
Right.
To be honest, but it should be the second answer, which is violence. And I totally agree with you, but I believe no matter what, that's going to continue. Because even though it's becoming illegal in every state, which eventually it will be in California within 2 years, I guarantee you that.
California is one of the only 11 states, right?
Correct.
Where it's still illegal.
Correct. And that's only because the Indian casinos are fighting back. And it's just a matter who wants that pie, or the main part of the pie. But the reality is it will be legal here. And when it is, you're still going to have 1 million illegal bookies. And forever.
Yeah. That's the thing that people that were fighting for the legalization of gambling, they would always say the best thing that can happen is legalizing this, because it will do away with all of the black market, the illegal side of it. But that's not true, as you
Not at
know
all.
now.
Not even close.
I mean, I know this from reporting on this.
Right.
The same thing will happen with the weed business in California. By the
Correct.
way. It was legalized. Everybody thought the black market would disappear.
Right.
The black market grew more than
Bigger.
ever. And if you talk to anyone who was working in the illegal side of the business, they will tell you the best thing that can happen is legalizing gambling,
Right.
because that makes it normal and custom for all of us.
That's correct. And the truth is, I'll speak for the weed side. I'm not in that business, but I have a lot of people that were, especially customers, and they all tell me the same thing. They would be happy to pay all the proper taxes and do all that, but it's so high they can't even operate.
Yeah, they make it impossible.
They can't. They have to do illegal stuff. And that's really the wrong message. Like, if you're saying you want to make it legal and you want to make your cut, well, make it so these people can operate and give you your cut without doing illegal stuff. So I think it's unfair.
Right.
Gambling's a little different. Gambling, because customers are gambling over their head, almost all of them in general. I shouldn't say all of them, but a very big percentage.
As in gambling more money than they actually have.
Correct.
Right.
And here's the problem. Let's say that you are a $500 better, okay, like on a football games or basketball games, and you want to bet.
I'm a soccer girl.
Okay, soccer. Let's just say soccer. It's fine. You want to bet Real Madrid. You want to bet Barcelona. They're all playing at the same time. Okay.
It's Portuguese games, Matt.
Okay.
I'm from Portugal.
All right, there you go. So let's pick 10 Portugal games.
Or whatever Ronaldo plays.
Okay, perfect. Well, I don't blame you. But if there's 10 games going at once and you bet $500,
yeah,
that means you need at least $6,000 in your account. Okay. It doesn't mean you're risking $6,000, even though you might bet 10 games. You're more likely not going to lose all 10. But you have to have that money in your account. Well, guess what? So a lot of people have a hard time departing with $6,000 at once to go put in an account at DraftKings or FanDuel or wherever they bet. And number one, because you have to do a financial colonoscopy before you open an account.
Yeah.
Number two, you got to report everything tax-wise, which nobody likes that, of course. And here's the big kicker. A lot of people are hiding these things from their wives or husbands or whatever and don't want to disclose them out there gambling. So now they're on a credit card or a bank account to see a wire or whatever. And then here's the other issue. I'll use football, for example. If you bet all 10 games and at 10 o'clock they go off at 10 a.m. for NFL, at 1 o'clock, some of the games start playing, the next set.
Yeah.
If your games aren't over, you can't even bet the next set of games because you only had $6,000 in your account. So you might have to put in $10,000. Well, with a credit account, you don't have to worry about that. You just ask your bookie for more credit. And he'll give you more credit because you aren't using all of it, but you need it to make all these wagers.
Yeah.
At the end of the week, you settle up. So
yeah, I mean, in a way, you're basically introducing this it's sort of like the gateway drug, right? By legalizing it,
right.
A lot more people who probably maybe wouldn't start with the illegal side of it, they would just do it legally.
Correct.
Are now, they see everybody else is doing it. It's being advertised on network television everywhere, right? You're seeing it everywhere. You have, ESPN is banking on it.
Yeah, they have their own company.
Right? Yep.
And here's the problem. You said it best. So a person goes into the legal side.
Right.
They get their feet wet.
Yeah.
They realize, and they're like, that's a pain in the neck, to go through all this to bet legally. Hey, John, you have a bookie, right? How's he? What's it like? Oh, it's that easy? Oh, he's just a nice guy. He just comes over and pays you on the whatever. Right. Yeah. Here, connect me. Right. And then boom, now they're over here. Or even worse, the people that are going to run out of money to put as a post up, that's what it's called, to put the money with DraftKings, now want to gamble, but they're broke. So what are they going to do? They're going to go bet with a bookie. And they're going to create a problem. And that's where the problems, violence and stuff like that come in. Because now they're going to go open an account, bet with someone with no money, take a shot, owe a guy money, which is an insult. Just start firing at someone. And what if they win the first week? They're going to get paid. And the second week, they probably don't have it.
Right.
Now it's a real problem. So these are the issues that are opening up Pandora's box in this area that is only going to get worse. Here's the bigger problem. This is something that's really not being discussed very much. We have a current epidemic right now. I have a 22-year-old daughter. I have a 26-year-old daughter. And when their boyfriends and friends come over, they're all gambling. And they're gambling. And I ask them, I said, where do you get your money? They work at whatever, Chick-fil-A or something. They're in college. And they're like, well, our parents give us money for school. And I'm like, so you're using that. So imagine like a 22-year-old kid or a 25-year-old kid who's gambling now, and it's small, $50, whatever. Now, fast forward 6 years from now, when they have
money, yeah.
They're 30 years old, they have a job, they make $100,000 a year.
Right.
They have a baby coming, they're getting married, they just bought their first house or condo or whatever. And now they start gambling and they create a gambling problem. And guess what? They're going to start dipping into their family issues and their wife, and it's going to create divorce and all kinds of problems. And it's all coming, sadly. 5 years from now, I'm very scared to how bad this epidemic is going to be.
I having reported on this, I really think the legalization of gambling in general was a terrible idea.
Yeah.
But here we are. And you started, actually, you were working, you had your operation happening at the time. So you started making a lot of money.
Yeah.
And I want to get to the Shohei Ohtani of it all. But I also want to ask how, for people who don't know, so I would contact you or your agent or sub-agent.
Right.
I'd place the bet. And then how does the distribution of the cash, how is that done? How is the laundering of the money? All of what would happen to, let's say, $1,000 that I place in a bet?
The logistics of everything.
Yeah, the logistics of it. How do you run a company that's essentially illegal?
So the bigger my business got, the easier it was to move the money because I had so many more hubs of ways to move it. So for example, I would say to you, Mariana, how would you like to be paid? And you might say, Venmo. Okay, no problem. How do you want to be paid, or how do you want to pay me? Venmo, Cash App, cash, whatever. There's so many options,
Right.
right?
But that's if
So
I was a small fish player, right? Because you can only
no,
pay with like $5,000
yeah,
max
but
on
then,
Venmo.
but that's why I would ask you. So let's say you are a bigger player. We would do crypto, wires, cash. There's so many formats that are available. So you're right. Smaller player, Venmo, you could do up to 10,000 if you ask them.
Okay.
I know all this because
Oh,
I know all the
wow.
limits and everything, right?
I'll call my Venmo right
Yeah, Cash App, Zelle,
Yeah.
Apple Pay. Of course, you have well, crypto is obvious. You have every
Right.
form of
Of course.
crypto.
And then cash, what do you mean? Like people with bags of money would
Yeah.
show up?
Oh yeah.
And
Yeah.
how would you pay people
However they
on
wanted,
the side of the country?
whatever they wanted, and that's part of my service. Is you tell me how you want it and where you want it, and you'll have it.
So if somebody just won, I don't know, $50,000,
Okay.
there's a man that shows up with a briefcase with 50,000 or $100,000.
If they live in California,
Yeah.
my runners would drive to their location of wherever they requested, work, home, parking lot, whatever they choose, and be there at that time with that bag of
Huh.
cash.
What if it was,
If it was in Kentucky, I would FedEx you a package in magazines or Monopoly or some form of board game.
hidden?
It would be hidden in the process, and we would FedEx it to you in different envelopes because I've had many issues with FedEx and UPS, of course. If the drivers know that there's cash in there, they're
course.
taking it.
Yeah.
So you have to really package it appropriately, and then we would send the packages out. And sometimes I would do it in like 3 or 4 packages just to be safe, because if one gets lost, at least you're losing only 10,000 or instead of 50. But that all varies on the person. Yeah.
How were you laundering your money, the money that you were making?
Well, truth be told, I filed as a professional gambler, so I didn't have to really launder much. The only reason I laundered money is because I was debanked and because I got kicked out of Chase, Wells Fargo, US Bank.
Because they knew that it was shady money.
Correct. And I stopped depositing cash because cash transactions is what got me in trouble many years ago. So for the last 10 years before I was raided, I didn't do any more cash transactions. It kept me in the banks longer. But once you're flagged, you're flagged. And so now I'm at a credit union because since I got in trouble 2 years ago when I got raided, now it's national news. And now they, as you know, you probably know this, the banking entities actually they run your name. And if you Google my name, it's very obvious that I was doing something illegal because it's every channel in the world. But once they find that out, they'll debank you, and they just don't want any, eyes on them, any federal problems. It's really about the federal government on them. They would take your business if they didn't have that concern. So my point is, I had to have other people, beards, I call them, who were running my operation as far as finances, and I would have throughout the whole country.
So they owned bank accounts where your money was stored.
Correct.
With under their names.
Not only bank accounts, Venmos, Cash Apps, Apple Pays. Like I had hubs, I call them, throughout the country. Let's just say that you won and you live in Wyoming and you won 18,000 and you'd say, I'll take it all in Apple Pay. Well, as you said earlier, there's limits, right? So Apple Pay will allow you, I think, to send $9,999. So I'd have to have maybe 5,000 from this guy, 4,000 from this guy. And I would get on my phone and I would get to all these people and say, send 4,000 to this phone number, send 5,000, and I would operate that.
And you're paying them a certain percentage of whatever?
Yeah, they'd all work for me. So they would have customers. A lot of them would just hold my money. So out of all my agents, they were all holding money. And the reason they would hold money is if their players won, I wanted to be paid right away. But also allowed me to, facilitate the money because if I had it all in my possession, that doesn't really help me. So I had to build trust with each person. And based on that trust and that relationship would be how much money I would hold with them. And once I felt a little shaky with that person, I would lower them out their holding as that holding increased because I didn't want that on the streets. Because of course I got burned many times with people who just take it and go gamble away their own money or just steal it or whatever. But that's where the relationship, the vetting, and the talent I think I had was reading people. Getting to like how do you feel someone out and know that you could trust them and limited transactions.
So how many beards did you have working for you?
Well, I had 48 agents who all held money, of course. But I probably had another maybe 20 people that would hold money for me that weren't really directly involved in my operation. I had a guy who owned a wheel and tire shop that I had $2 million stored in his tires, up in his rafters, let's call it.
In California?
Yeah. Yeah. So when I needed money,
You have a lot of money hidden in your house as well?
Well, they got all that, but
They did?
well, so they raided me on Thursday.
On
If they raided me on Monday,
Yeah.
they would have had another $1.5 million. But I just paid everybody.
Because that was the days you paid, right? You paid off on Monday.
Yes. So I got off a plane
Yeah.
on Monday, I took a plane from the casino.
Uh-huh.
I went to the Dallas Cowboys game on a private jet from Resorts World, and then I got home the next day on a Monday, and then it was Thursday, I think, was when Wednesday or Thursday they raided me.
And how much money did they get?
It was like about $1 million total in assets, and it was about 270 in cash. I chips,
But you had $1 million more in cash.
well, like a 1.5 million,
Wow.
1.2, I think I
Hmm.
dispersed on a Monday and Tuesday.
So all this happened essentially because of the meeting that you had, right, a few years before in San Diego. Can you tell me?
No, I actually didn't.
Huh.
Had nothing to do with that.
Oh no.
The whole world thought that.
What? I got my sources wrong? I got my information wrong? What a
No,
terrible journalist I am.
Not at all. That's exactly what everyone thought and thinks until
So wait, so it wasn't Shohei Ohtani that brought you down? No, it was the casino's investigation.
That's correct.
Okay, but let's go to Shohei Ohtani's
correct.
interpreter first.
Yeah.
So you went. Tell us how you met the interpreter.
So I was
His name, by the way, is Ippei
Mizuhara,
yeah.
and I met him in 2021.
Mhm.
I had a relationship with a lot of athletes, and particularly a few Angels baseball players, which I'd play golf with and hang out with, and they bet with me, etc. And I went to their spring training games and hung out with a lot of them. And so in that relationship, you just meet more of them, right?
Mhm.
So I went to a Padres Angels game, and after it was in September, after the game, we went to their local hotel where the team was staying, and they had a private poker game. It wasn't a rake game; it was just for fun. And there was probably 4 players there, maybe 3 players. There was the first base coach and maybe 8 of us regular Joes that were all just messing around, having pizza, and just the game was over. The guys hanging out. A lot of them, like Mike Trout and Shohei Ohtani, they weren't there. They were probably in their rooms or whatever. They don't gamble, or maybe they don't play poker, or maybe at least not on that night. So long story short, Ippei Mizuhara was there, and of course I knew who he was.
Oh, you did immediately.
I knew, yeah, because Shohei Ohtani is the biggest
Right.
athlete in the world, and even then he was becoming.
Right. And he was with Shohei all the time. 'Cause
He
was his
was.
translator. He's also supposedly best friend, right?
For sure, they were really close, and it was very obvious. So he was on his phone placing a sports bet, and a friend of mine who was
Soccer, right?
yeah, a friend of mine who was sitting there I was playing poker, and he says, "Hey, Ippei, Matt does that," and they just started conversating and being friends, whatever, having pizza, and he goes, their conversation turned into him giving him an account. It was a really small account. It was $1,000 per game and an $8,000 credit line, which is very reasonable for a interpreter. So that's how the whole relationship started. Well, that zoomed real quick into a private jet to where it was $40,000 in credit extension to $300,000 in credit to where I took it over, because now we're talking, these are big numbers. And when they're big numbers, I'm going to get involved. It's my operation.
And because he was paying all the time, right? He was, even when he was losing, he was paying you, so you knew that you could extend the credit.
In truth, we extended to 40 right away, no problem. And then when it went to 300, of course, I'm making this decision. I said, I'll move him to 300, but I'm not giving him more than that until he pays. So I moved him to 300,000, and then he wired the money right away. So then he asked for 500,000. So of course I did that. Then he lost to 500,000. He paid right away. So I'm like,
what was he betting on, by the way?
mostly soccer, 80%. A little bit NBA, a little NFL, but almost all soccer, which is very popular in Japan.
Was he just a very bad bettor?
Very.
It was terrible?
Yeah, really bad, actually.
He always bet on the wrong thing?
He bet too many bets, and he bet a lot of parlays, which is very difficult. You know what a parlay is? So let me explain that. So a parlay is when you have to win multiple bets. Otherwise, the bet loses, but it pays more. So you might bet, example, a 3-team parlay. So you're betting, let's say, 3 soccer teams. All 3 games have to win. If it wins, your $1,000 bet will pay roughly $6,000.
So it's the riskiest of bets, I guess.
Yeah, it pays the most, but it's so hard to win. It's hard enough to win 1 game, let alone 3 or 4.
Did you bet parlays?
A little bit, but not very much. I was more of a straight bettor,
Okay, so 500,000 he's asking you, and at this point are you wondering, like, how is it possible? Is this guy making this amount of money as a translator?
The second wire I was, because now, the first 300 grand, anyone could have 300 grand. He made $250,000 a year as an interpreter at the end. So, he could have saved it up, or maybe he has some family money. But now when you're sending 500,000 again, after losing 300, okay. So then he asked for $1 million in credit. I give it to him. And then he sends another wire for 500,000. And this is when I get the phone call, and my friend says, "Are you sitting down?" And I said, "Why?" He says, "This wire just came in. You got it." I'm like, "Okay, great." He says, "From Shohei Ohtani." I said, "Holy shit." I mean, that was a wow moment for me.
And did you think for a second, is it actually Shohei who's gambling, or did
Well,
you
at that moment, I thought for sure it was Shohei Ohtani.
really?
I mean, because that's $1.3 million that's been paid.
Right.
I look at the account. He just asked me to bump him to $3 million.
Wow.
Okay. And I look at the account. He's already down $2 million.
Wow.
So I'm like, there's no way an interpreter can afford this, right? I mean, maybe he has some family money, but this is big money. And he never said, I never asked. And the reason I never asked is because I didn't want to know.
Mhm.
It's like, those moments in life where we've all had them where it's like, you want to know really badly, but you're kind of afraid of the answer.
Because if he had said yes, what would happen?
Nothing. It would have actually probably made me feel better because I would have known that,
He has money. He's good for it.
yeah, but at the same time, I did make sure there was no baseball wagers. That was all that mattered to me because that's where
Because it would be illegal, right? He
that
would
would
be
be a
able to
big problem.
bet
Yes,
on baseball.
correct. And
That's
then I would get, I mean, they would come down hard on me,
right.
even though I'm just the end result. It's like if there's rigged games or integrity of the sport is involved, you're talking about the whole world's going to hate me,
Mhm.
including the government.
Yeah, and I'm wondering, I think most people know, but if people that don't live in the US probably don't know, Shohei Ohtani, the best baseball player ever to ever live, right? I mean,
I think he's the best athlete to ever move,
right.
period. Like, my opinion, Michael Jordan, and you're talking about Tiger Woods. I mean, this is like, this gentleman can do everything.
Right.
And
And he's Japanese. He doesn't speak English very well, or
correct.
apparently doesn't says he doesn't speak English really well, which is why he has an interpreter with him at all times.
Right.
But at this point, also, it was like he was his career was launching,
It was.
skyrocketing, right?
Big
Here,
time.
big
Globally. And
Yeah.
now, he's Godzilla, let's call it, of
right.
Japan and even US,
Yeah, he's like a god. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so you received this wire, you looked at the name, you was like, holy shit, it's actually Shohei who's placing these bets,
Right.
and this guy is just the front.
Yes, that's
And
my thought for sure. And so people ask me, well, why didn't you ask? I'm like, again, I didn't really want to know. And someone's paying you $500,000 every 2 weeks. I don't care if it's dogs betting. I mean, at the end of the day, I provided a service. My service was doing my job, and they seemed to be happy with whoever was on the other side of the fence here. There was, if you go look at all the text messages that were sent out by the government, by the way, all like 90 of them, the government put them out for the whole world to see. There was never any signs of like, oh my God, I'm going to kill myself, or I can't believe, he would joke about it.
from Shohei, yeah.
Well,
I mean, from the interpreter,
From
sorry.
Ipe, yeah.
Yeah.
He would say,
Yeah.
oh, I'm so bad at this. Hey, give me another 500,000.
I've read some of these text
Right?
messages. Yeah, I
You can tell. And then you'll look at the final text that I make to him, which is, hey man, I get it. It was all a cover up.
Mhm.
And then he says, if you look at this text, I don't know if you saw it, he says, technically, I screwed up. It's like, what does that mean? Technically, it's like, to me, that's where the question mark is so big. I was the closest to this than anyone in the world other than those two gentlemen. They're the only two that know every truth really behind everything. I believe that Shohei Ohtani knew that he was helping his friend. I believe that strongly.
do you?
I do. I have no evidence other than the obvious, which is a text message that says, technically, how do you not see $16.2 million, $17 million is what he took from your bank account over almost a year and a half or 2 years? How do you not notice that? Number one. Number two, ESPN, has not been put out anywhere. ESPN reporter Tisha Thompson, who is the one who broke this at my home, which is why I had to go tell the government. So this is what most people don't know. I had to go tell the United States government that Shohei Ohtani's wire transfers were coming in. They had no idea.
And how did she break it? How did she find out?
Because I have a big mouth, because I used it as kind of a marketing ploy, as like, hey man, I have one of the biggest athletes in the world betting with me. And so it got back to her when I got raided, because the world loves to see you go down, not in general, but most people, and they wanted my clients, other bookmakers. So someone was calling her and telling her,
This guy is the bookie for Shohei Ohtani.
correct.
Okay.
So
Or
the
is saying
government
that he is.
raided me in October. If you notice, it didn't come out about Shohei Ohtani until March. So that's 5 months. And for 5 months, I sat there and I didn't say a word. Well, really, technically about 3 months. So January is when ESPN, Tisha Thompson showed up at my house, literally from Washington, D.C. And my lawyer sat with me, and we said, we'll listen to what you have to say, of course, because I was shitting my pants thinking she knew. And the first like 20 minutes of the interview of her telling us what sources have told her were not about Shohei Ohtani. I'm like, okay, this is great. It's about Vegas and Resorts World, no problem. And then she said, well, why don't you tell me about Shohei Ohtani betting and losing $4 million to you? Because she thought the number was 4 million. By the way, it was a lot more than that. And I was like, oh God, this is a disaster. So we decided not to confirm or deny anything with her. And we went right to the United States government and told them, because I had to, because it was going to come
It
out
was going to come out. Yeah.
on ESPN. So your first part of what you said is what everyone thought, is that Shohei Ohtani's name and this whole thing brought me down, but it
But
had
it
nothing
wasn't.
to do
It
with it.
was the investigation into Resorts World,
Correct.
correct? But okay, so first of all, you see this wire and it's Shohei Ohtani, and you are a very competitive person, I can tell. And at this point, you was like, "Holy shit, this is kind of awesome
Yeah, of
because I
course.
now have something, a calling card for everybody else,
Right.
and I'm essentially the best bookie there is. Because if the best player in the world is betting
Mm.
with me,
It's
then
a lot of,
right,
clout,
right,
and I have a big ego, so
uh-huh.
I definitely was, somewhat bragging about it. Let's be real. And I was definitely, and I didn't anticipate this ever happening. I thought he would gamble with me, hopefully the rest of my life. I was a bookmaker, and
And he was bringing you a lot of money.
of course, and to be honest, he was terrible.
Yeah, so you were making a lot of money from him.
Yeah, there's no way that this account, the way it was betting, could ever win over
And
time.
so the whole time you were thinking, for sure, this money is coming from Shohei's account. For sure, Ipe is just the front for this,
Or maybe
or
partners.
they were partners
Yeah,
gambling together.
yeah. I definitely didn't think Ipe was stealing the money.
Mhm.
I mean, obviously that's easy to say now because we know that's probably what occurred. But at the time, that wasn't even a thought pattern in my mind at all. Because, in my opinion, how does he not notice it? I still think that's the biggest question. Like, if I stole from you $5,000 or $5 million, if it happens in one day, you might not just be checking your account, but within 16, 18 months, you're going to check your bank account. That's the part that, I mean, I think Jeff Bezos would have noticed.
Yeah, I mean, and initially the interpreter Ipe said, he came out and he said that he did everything with the knowledge of Shohei, and then he came out and said, absolutely, that I was lying.
Right.
It was just me. So you think he was pressured
Yes.
by Shohei to lie on his
I think by the Dodgers. I don't think by
by the
Shohei.
Dodgers, yeah.
Because if you look at what happened, he had that 90-minute interview on the phone with Tisha Thompson. He was in Korea. And then the very next day,
Who's this? This is Ipe or
Ipe
Shohei?
and Tisha, they had a 90-minute interview. 90 minutes is a long time. And he retracted this entire 90 minutes and said that what he said initially was Shohei is the one who actually sent the wire, the very first wire. And she was asking him, basically, she had the sources of, not only coming to my home, but people were telling her that Shohei was gambling with me. So he didn't even know. He caught her, she caught him off guard as well.
And he admitted. He said, yes, that's
Yeah,
true.
he
He's
said,
gambling.
yes, he even sent the first wire. So to me, the fact that they redacted that whole statement and said that, oh, he was lying, he didn't, that's not what he said. I don't know. I mean, I don't want to, it's not like still Shohei did nothing wrong. He helped his friend. He let him, if what I think happened is true, he lent him money. Big deal. What's wrong with that? He's not the one gambling. He can lend somebody money. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. But I think because there's laws, there's a rule for MLB that they cannot wire money to an illegal entity, an illegal bookmaker. I think they just said it's easier for him just to say that he never knew.
But are you saying, do you think that Shohei was the actual person gambling,
No.
partnering with this guy? He was just borrowing or lending money to his friend
That's my assumption.
to gamble.
Yes.
You think it was Ipe who had the gambling problem?
I definitely think that. I do. I don't
But
think
with the
Shohei.
knowledge of Shohei.
I don't think Shohei ever gambled. And I'll tell you why. Number one, I went to a spring training game and Shohei was on the mound pitching and bets were flying in on my website. That was my first
Oh, right.
feeling of, okay, I
Right.
wanted to know, but I didn't want to ask.
Right.
And then the second thing is,
Meaning he couldn't be doing two things at once. He
he's
couldn't be-
talented, but that'd be, wow. But secondly, you gamble and you don't a gambler is a gambler. Like they don't just start gambling at 30 years old, $40 million. Like, you might bet $10, but he's never been a gambler. Everyone around him will tell you that. So he's never gone to a casino. He's never been on a different sports book or with another bookie. There would be something like that would have came out.
Right.
I've been gambling since I was 12 years old. So for me to have a story like this, that would make sense.
Yeah.
But for him, no.
Yeah, these texts that came out between the two of you, between you and Ipe, are
Right.
really interesting. I mean, he is admitting, he says, I'm so sorry, I need more money, I promise I'll pay you. Then it's,
Yeah.
I need more, I promise I'll pay you back. And he keeps losing, and he
Right.
keeps joking about it.
He
It's like
does.
emojis
He
of
laughs at
him
himself.
laughing and
Yes.
saying, I'm a terrible gambler.
Gambler.
And you say, don't worry, buddy, I am too.
I do. Because I've lost millions of dollars too. I lost $13 million at Resorts World of 2023. So I understand. I was getting, actually when he was losing, I had the worst run of my life because I've always kind of held my own a little bit. I've always lost gambling. Nobody wins over time, but I've negotiated great deals with my wife being a host, with what I would negotiate through the casinos. I would at least cut the edge down drastically to where maybe the casinos have an edge, but it's very minimal. He didn't have any of that. His was just dumping money. I mean, literally it was like lighting on a fire. And he laughs about it and we joke about it.
Hmm.
And he never shows disarray at all.
And so was there a part of you at all that felt bad for this guy that thought, okay, I can't take more money from this dude because he's obviously running himself into a hole here?
Yeah, if you look at some of the texts, I stop him. He wanted more credit. I finally had to stop at $24 million, which is what he owes me to this day, because he kept asking for more credit. And I said, Ipe, we got to have some sort of like threshold here. Like, and I'll be honest with you, I gave him a lot of credit a lot of times because as a gambler, the one thing you want to do is be able to bet. You want to get down. There's nothing worse than being in Las Vegas or any casino and you're a junkie, I call it, because it's really what you are, and you want to bet and you have no more money. You might as well, you just want to be home. You don't want to be there. It's the worst place in the world.
Right.
I don't care if you have nice dinners or shows. You're gonna be at a show just thinking about the gambling.
Mm.
So I wanted to give him that opportunity to win some of the money back. I actually wanted him to win some of the money back because the number was so high. It was so absurd.
Right.
The 1 week he won 4.4 million on my website, I was happy for him. Not because I had to pay him, because it went from 8 million down to 3.5 million and it was more reasonable.
Mhm.
But then it went right back up. So yeah, did I feel sorry for him? Of course, I feel terrible. He's in prison right now. He's a nice man, very kind, very honorable. He was trying to do everything he could. Yes, he committed fraud or whatever. I mean, he stole the money. That's what they're saying. I still question that, but I don't want to call Shohei Ohtani a liar either because I don't have a relationship with him and he seems like a very honorable guy. So
So he's in prison for fraud, not for gambling,
yeah,
You're
he's
right.
in prison for the stealing the
for
money.
the stealing the money.
Correct.
And you think he's just did that as a sort of a favor to his friend, as a favorism, like he was pressured to do that. You either take time in prison, say that Shohei doesn't know anything about this,
I'll be
or
honest, I'm not sure because there's a part of me that thinks that he initially borrowed some of the money, like Shohei okayed a wire or two. This is just my assumption, by the way. I have no proof of any of this, but I'm pretty closer than most to this situation. Let's be real. I believe that he said, "Hey, I'm in trouble. I lost a little bit of money. Can I borrow some?"
Right.
Yeah, no problem. You're my translator. You're my best friend. Go ahead. And then he kept tapping into the kitty without maybe telling or asking.
right.
That's my opinion.
Yeah.
I say that because I'm a degenerate gambler. I know, how many times I've been in a casino, Mariana, where I lost my $2 million credit line. They won't give me any more credit. I asked. The casino says no because they'll do that a lot. And my friend who's sitting right next to me has a $500,000 credit line. He's not as big as gambler as me. And I'll be like, hey, man, you're going to bed.
Give me that credit line.
Give it to me.
Right.
And of course, they know I'm going to pay him. I'm honorable. I'm going to pay. And they'll give me literally 300,000 or whatever he has in front of him, and I'll take it. And I might lose it all, or I might win it all back. The point is, when you're in that mode, you're not thinking about, oh, I just lost 2 million. Now I'm going to dig into a deeper hole. You're thinking, I'm going to win it back.
Mm-hmm.
You don't think about the negative side. You think about the positive side. That's what gambling does.
Right. That's why they call it the hidden addiction, right? Because you can actually you present normal. It's not like a drug addiction or alcohol
100%.
addiction. You can go home, you could have lost your house, lost everything you own, but still look kind of normal.
Listen, I've had $2 million on a football game, and I've been to my kid's volleyball game, and I want to throw up because I just lost $2 million, and you would never know. I'm sitting on the sidelines cheering her on. Hey, go get it, girl. And I'm looking at my phone. I'm looking at the game. I'm just disgusted.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's also something, that sounds horrible. Not something I want to go through.
No.
I gambled, I think, $5 once at the slot machine in Vegas, and I won $5. I was like, I'm out.
Well, you're smart. Yeah. But that's not in your blood. It's not
It's
like your
definitely
thing.
not. I
Yes.
have a high tolerance for risk, but not that. That's just not
Yeah.
my thing.
Well, that's you're taking educated risk, so, and I respect that. And that's really what I should have done my whole life.
Right.
But I've chosen this drug of choice because it really is. It's a hidden addiction is so the best way to describe it, which is why it's the most deadly one. Because like you said, if I was sitting here fumbling my words and eyes are bloodshot and I'm high, you know it. You wouldn't even, we wouldn't have this
This
interview.
guy needs help, right?
You'd be like, we're not doing this,
Yeah.
This guy's a mess.
Exactly. Yeah, it's also interesting. Most people don't know this, but unlike you, if you the dopamine shot,
Mhm.
the happy
Yes.
whatever shot that you get when you take drugs, for example,
Right.
you only get it if you're taking drugs. But with gambling, you get it whether you lose or you win. So
It's actually
whatever.
worse. It's even higher, I think, when you lose. And
Ah.
people, they don't comprehend that. I say it all the time. I'm like, this makes me sound like a loser. Like I like losing. Nobody likes losing. I'm very competitive. Most people that gamble are ultra competitive. But when you lose, it's like a extra driving force to win it back.
Mm.
You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
and I hate, my wife will not love this statement because I've said it on a couple podcasts now. It's better than the best sex you'll ever have. like it's the euphoric high of a dopamine rush of that gambling,
Right.
win or lose,
Right.
is so like it's such a high. I mean, that's why I always was betting more and more and more. In 2023, I bet $4.6 million on the Kansas City Chiefs myself to win the Super Bowl. So it was a $9.5 million 3-hour ride that I was on.
God,
Okay.
it's
So I can't tell you the highs and lows I felt in that 3 hours because they went into the tunnel. You probably don't remember this game or didn't watch it, but
I watched it probably, but I don't
okay.
remember it.
Bottom line is Patrick Mahomes hurt his ankle. He
Yeah.
was hobbling into the thing.
Right.
And they said he's probably not going to come back out. So I just like washed 4.6 total. I bet 4.2 million on the game. And then at halftime, I bet another 400,000
On the same.
on the same, knowing he was hurt. And people ask me, why would you do that?
Yeah.
I'll tell you why. Because I just lost 4.2 million. So I'm chasing, trying to get some of it back. And all I could get down, and when I say get down, get my hands on, was $400,000 to bet the second half. So I bet every dollar I could. I had to bet through bookmakers. I was in the Bahamas, and I bet, it's on my website, I bet $1.25 million in cash in the Bahamas, and then I bet the rest of it through bookies throughout the country. But my point is, when he came back out of the tunnel and they came back and won the game, and it came out in the last second, I mean, that high was like whatever your biggest high you ever can fathom in your life, having a baby or getting married or whatever, all of that.
Right.
It's the same feeling. I mean, that's a sad truth of what I'm saying, but I'm honest. I mean, the one thing I can tell you is I've had 5 children. It's best moments of my life when they're born, right? Getting married to my wife, one of the best moments. Sadly, some of the best moments are right up there in gambling with these same moments. And that might sound like ridiculous to someone listening to this.
No,
but I'm honest.
Yeah.
And guess what? My wife would even tell you that we had a moment in Monaco, Monte Carlo, one of the best places in the world. I was gambling. I won $1.4 million and I couldn't lose. I really couldn't lose.
You're just winning.
I couldn't lose. I was laughing.
Wow.
And I was laughing to the point where I locked up $1 million and I said to her, we've had so much fun. It was the best trip of my life. And we did everything. We're at Jimmy Z's nightclub, Le Grill, one of the nicest restaurants in Hotel de Paris. I had a penthouse suite that was $30,000 a night. I'm gambling with Russian oligarchs and sheiks, and I'm gambling more than them. And I'm this U.S. dork who doesn't even have a real business. I mean, it was a business, but you know what I mean? It wasn't like I had, these guys they have yachts out front that are more money than anyone in Newport Beach ever would fathom, Beverly Hills, whatever. And they're just so rich, right? And I'm antagonizing them. I'm like, come on, let's bet more, and we're just having a blast. But my point is, we were sitting there and she looked at me and she's like, this is one of the best moments of our life. Like we're having so much fun, it wasn't, of course, winning was part of it. It was just the euphoric feeling we were having. And it was like, we couldn't lose. And I was laughing at the dealers and I was like, I'm going to try to lose this hand. I was drunk and be honest, but I bet $80,000 and we win. So it came to the point where we go to the casino every day with $100,000 because I just didn't want to dip into the million. So for 4 days in a row, after I won the $1 million, I locked it up. I would go down there and say, let's just take this $100,000. Let's just have fun. I'm going to lose it, but let's have a good time. And if we win, we'll go shopping. I go win 80,000.
Wait, what was happening on this
We
trip?
would just go by. We bought both our Breitlinks. It was like $85,000 watches.
Holy
Next day,
shit.
I have a picture on my website. I bought her these Chanel crazy diamond earrings. It was like Pretty Woman, but she's my wife. She's not a hooker. But I was like, I want you to feel like Julia Roberts did in Pretty Woman.
Wow.
And we laughed about it because we would just go. And obviously, $60,000 was like water at that point. And so we won for 4 days straight, another $400,000. Wow. And I never lost. And it was like, the reason I'm mentioning this is like, having my baby come out of my wife and you're holding your baby, it's like you want to, you're crying. It's like those. But this is up there with those feelings. And that's a sad statement, but it's true.
Yeah, I mean, you're making me want to gamble. I want to go to Monte Carlo right now.
But there's been some dark ones where I'm in a sauna and I've just lost $4 million and my wife is consoling me. And I want to cry like a little girl, like literally. I'm not, but I'm sitting there just thinking, what in the fuck am I going to do?
Yeah, because that's a problem with your whole operation is, yes, you are making a shit ton of money, but because of your gambling issues, you were actually also losing a shit ton.
100%. I lost $13 million in a year at a casino, and I couldn't win there. I kept going, and I'm not used to losing like that. I've lost, but never that consistently that much.
Yeah.
And she was just like, what is wrong? And I'm like, And then I had that competitive desire. I've
Yeah.
never lost. I'm
Need
like,
to beat
I'm
this.
going to get it back, and then I just kept losing. And then it came to a point where I just realized I just lost that much money and I was disgusted with myself.
Mhm.
And so there's that dark side of it too,
For sure.
And
I mean, what was I think there's like a number that I'd written down earlier on about the 3 million Americans that can't stop gambling. So that is a gigantic.
oh, it's wild. And I've seen being through a federal case
Mhm.
myself, I've been reached out by so many people on my Instagram, on my social media, because I'm very transparent about my situation, and I think it's resonated with these people.
Yeah. When people reach out saying, I have got gambling problems.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, they're like they're feeling it, and that they feel comfortable to reach out and say, for example, I met a kid in Dallas. I say kid, he's like 35, but
Uh-huh.
I went to Dallas during this turmoil. My daughter had a volleyball tournament, and my officer allowed me to travel to be there as a father. So I posted on social media that I was in Dallas, and the guy says, "Hey, can I come meet you?" I'm like, "I'm here to play volleyball or see my kid play volleyball, but sure." So he comes over, we go get coffee,
Mhm.
and he stole $4.7 million from his friends and family to feed his gambling addiction, and he's going to prison for 64 months. And I feel terrible for him because I could tell he's not a bad person.
Mhm.
He's really not, but he made a really bad choice.
Right.
And he should be punished. I agree. I just don't think that's the right punishment for him. He is never going to pay this money back by being in prison. He's not a violent guy. Should he be punished? Absolutely. He stole money. He lied to these people. He told them things to feed his addiction. But let's get him help. Let's get him to work. Let's get him to
Right.
pay
So you
these
can
victims
repay.
back.
Right.
And even me, like I committed a crime. Totally get it. I'll be accountable for that. But is it helping my 4-year-old son that I'm going to be in prison, that he won't have his dad around for Halloween and Thanksgiving because I was taking illegal bets that are legal in every state almost? I mean, make me pay all the taxes that I didn't pay properly, fine me, which they did, $1.25 million twice, $2.5 million. I'm paying all that restitution. I paid all that. So is it really helping the community?
Hmm.
I mean, I even said to the judge, I'll go for 8 hours a day and help people with addiction.
Hmm.
I'll go have speaking events for free. But me going to prison with a guy next to me that was a pedophile
Hmm.
is not really helping the community. And I'm not trying to ask to get out. I'm going. I'm going in 11 days. I just don't think that's the answer. It's just my opinion.
Right. I mean, I guess it could be the answer if prisons work like they are supposed to work, right? If
Yeah,
it was sort of a
reform.
reset and a reform,
Yes.
right? But it's
Yes. But it's
oftentimes
not.
not the case, right? There's no
Correct.
real, in many cases, education in prison.
No, they
It's
come
not.
out worse most
Yeah.
of the time.
Right.
I mean,
Right.
and they're trying. Donald Trump, actually, I'm not a political guy, so I'm not going to go there on this conversation. But he at least has reformed that part of it
Yeah.
much better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we were here. I was talking to Michael Santos, who you
Yes,
know
I
as
love
well
him.
about this.
Yes,
Yeah. Okay. So then you were running this gigantic operation. That whole Shohei Ohtani scandal breaks, but that is actually not how you got caught. So tell me about the government started investigating Resorts World because
correct.
they knew that there was a lot of people that were making shady money that were everything from, I'm assuming,
Yeah.
like drug
Hmm.
money, illegal bookmaking, all
Right.
of it. And they were laundering their money through Resorts World.
Correct.
So there's a part of this whole story that always sort of, even when I was doing my story on illegal gambling, that always pisses me off, which is the collusion of the casinos, right?
Right.
They're legal operations
Correct.
and they're places where people go to have fun and people, the owners are making
A lot
millions
of
and
money.
millions of
Right.
money. And yet they, in many ways you could see that they're responsible for a lot they're definitely responsible for a lot of the addiction, and they are also knowingly
Of course.
laundering money and allowing people that make money in shady ways to come
Yeah.
and,
Gamble there.
and gamble there because
Well,
they're
they're
making a shit ton of money from
they're
it.
aiding and abetting,
Right.
and that should be a crime in itself, right? So,
How did you experience that?
what?
Tell us, like,
Let, let,
very.
let me ask you a question. If a president or an employee or the entire organization
Mhm.
of a casino is knowingly looking the other way and allowing a person like me to come in and gamble, do you feel that it's fair that I have to go to prison, pay $9 million in taxes, 1.7 million in restitution, spent a father of five, go spend a year in prison, and they got a fine for 10.5 million, but they made 25 million off of me and these other
Yeah.
bookmakers. So they made 14.5 million and they just carry on. The president did get some issues. He got a $9,500 fine and he had to leave his job
The president of the
of Resorts
Resorts
World.
World, right?
And I don't believe it all falls on him either. It's not fair. Just like I feel like he was the fall guy for a lot of what happened in Las Vegas, I feel like I'm the fall guy for a lot of the bookmakers and drug dealers and stuff
Yeah.
like that. But to answer your question, they raided me because in 2020 they busted a bookmaker in Newport Beach, California. And when they busted him, his name was Wayne Nix, they went through his telephone and they found more evidence, which is what happens in these cases, just like mine. And they find out who you're talking to in conversations. And that led to Resorts World, which at the time was the president was at MGM. And so they ran that whole ladder and it led him to Resorts World because he moved from MGM to Resorts World, Scott Sabella. And again, I don't even think he should be the culprit of all these problems, but he was part of it. Let's be honest. He definitely looked the other way. But a casino's job is difficult too. Marketing side is to bring in business. Compliance side is who should be really who failed here.
Right. They have to make sure that if you're betting $1 million in your casino, that money isn't coming from illegal.
Yeah, know your customer, KYC rule, which is exactly the law that was not being enforced in all of the casinos. Mainly though, Resorts World. And
Because they were a new casino and they were trying to bring in new clients.
yes,
They needed the
they need the
whales.
business. They
The
did.
whales, which are the people that bring in a lot of money.
Correct.
And a lot of times they're people are making easy money and spending easy money. So they're
No doubt.
shady.
The reason why Las Vegas is struggling numbers wise, as far as gaming numbers, gaming revenue, is because of this. The KYC rules now being enforced thoroughly. I would say I heard there's a rumor
Because of
that
the government investigation that you fell
correct
under.
part of
Yeah.
over 300 bookmakers were given a courtesy letter saying you're no longer welcome
At the casino, yeah.
at the casinos because they can't prove their income and pretty much are known bookmakers. And the casinos don't want any more fines or problems. So they're now enforcing the law and the rule.
Yeah, it's interesting. I was just interviewing, I think like a year ago, a guy who sells guns to the cartel. He has a ghost, he makes ghost guns, basically, which, do you know what they are? They're
No.
unserialized guns that
They
you,
don't have a serial
some of
number,
them,
right?
yeah, they don't have a serial number. But yeah. And you can make them at home. And he's selling tons of these, making a ton of money, selling these to gang members and cartel members and all that. And he launders all his money. When I was asking him, he told me all through casinos. He goes to Vegas constantly, and that's where he basically comes in with the cash, chips, and then
Goes home with a check and
goes
they
down.
buy a house and a car.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
of course.
So it's still happening.
It is. And sadly, mine was the opposite. Mine was reverse money laundering because I use it as a hub for different reasons, meaning there was a lot of times that I needed cash. So I would wire money because I wasn't hiding, really, I wasn't hiding what I was doing. So I would have wires sent and then if I needed cash, I would just take home cash. Whereas most people are doing the opposite. They're bringing cash
Right.
because they want to put it into the system. I didn't have a trouble with that because a lot of my customers were paying through wires, etc., and I had no problems with that. But I wanted my customers, most of them requested to be paid in cash because they would hide it from their wives or, they didn't want, to be honest, they also were probably doing a lot of dirty stuff on their own taxes. And so if they wrote a check or wire to somebody, they probably wrote it off, as an expense. And then I would give them cash in return. So there's a lot of craziness that was
That's
going
why
on.
you're using the casinos.
Yes.
Yeah, it reminds me a little bit of the pharmaceutical companies, actually. Purdue Pharma and the Oxycontin
Sure.
crisis, and how a lot of people got in trouble and they got slapped on the wrist. They got a slap on the wrist. They had to pay a few $1 million, but like nothing compared to the money that they made from creating this gigantic crisis,
Right.
So I think there should be more accountability on the side of casinos, and the government should make sure that they're paying what they should pay.
Right.
Right? Do you
Well,
think?
and they are now. I mean, believe me, there's no casinos are going to be after this. I just don't see them looking the other way. I really don't because the fines are getting bigger.
Right.
The Wynn got fined $130 million
Wow.
8 months ago. $130 million. It took 10 years for that case to go through.
And was it for the same for accepting money that they knew was
Yep.
right?
I think the guy was embezzling money, sending it, and then lost it gambling at the Wynn. And then, of course, they looked the other way.
Right.
And then, so they got fined $130 million.
Right. Yeah, I'm assuming it's also probably difficult to prove these cases, right? That they. I mean, I guess they should do their homework. That's why there's a compliance.
Yeah, the compliance. It's really it all boils down to compliance. And I mean, I have a lot of casino hosts. One of them just got fired And it breaks my heart because he's a great guy. And all he was doing was recruiting business and me being one of them. And because of my case and me, he lost his job.
That's why he lost his job.
Yeah. And it's terrible because the person that should be fired is compliance. If I was a casino host, I would go out and get any cartel, drug member, bookie, whatever. I wouldn't care. My job is to bring in business. I mean, of course, I would look for regular people too, but I would just bring in business and I wouldn't really want to know what they did.
Right.
Just come gamble at our casino and I'll provide a service. That's really their job. But they fired him. And I was like, well, why is all the compliance people not being fired? That's their job.
Exactly.
You know, they're supposed to enforce compliance. That's why it's called compliance.
Right. Yeah.
So it was really sad.
Yeah.
And I've had 2 hosts that I know that have been fired because of this case. And they're friends of mine. And it's terrible. And I feel terrible that because of my case, it wasn't because of me directly, but it really
Right.
kind of was.
Right.
They lost their job.
Right. It's always the little people and never the people that actually
Yeah.
big people that should be get
Right.
in trouble. So tell me, did you realize that you were about to get in trouble? Or did it come by surprise? Was it?
I was putting my son in my wife's car and I heard FBI freeze and I look over and there's 8 guys in tactical gear with AR rifles pointing them at me. I had no clue. Zero.
Okay, so you woke up that morning, you're here, you're home. Tell me how that morning went.
Yeah, so I own a jiu-jitsu studio called Risk, and my professor, who I own the business with, we train together, and he came over. He loves my son. He trains him too. And we were just decided to go get coffee and take my son to the park. It was 9:30 in the morning, and I was literally putting him in the car seat. I mean, literally putting the buckle in, and I heard FBI freeze, and I swear I thought it was a joke because I thought it was like one of my friends like coming over or something. And I look over and I just seen literally they obviously in the full tactical gear. And I seen all the guns being pointed at me. I was like, holy shit. And then they put the guns down because I'm grabbing my son.
Right.
And I grabbed my son and then they cuffed my friend because they just
No,
secure the
he was,
premise.
yeah.
They cuffed him and they separated us. And then they said, who's in the house? Who's in the house? And I'm like, oh boy, my wife and a painter and someone painting our house. And so all you hear is this yelling, screaming of the guys because they're bulldozing down my garage door because my garage was open. And then maybe 2 minutes later, I see my wife come out in handcuffs crying.
Oh.
And it's a face that it's like gives me nightmares
Right.
because she's just the sweetest person in the world. But she comes out on the driveway and I'm just like, oh my God, this is my fault, right? And I'm holding my son. I'm trying to make it seem he's only 2 at the time. I'm trying to make it seem like this is normal, but there's 29 agents. There's 26 men, 3 women, and a dog.
Do you think he realized what was happening? Was he scared? I mean, he's 2, is really young, but
I was actually making it like a joke, like with him in a sense of like, oh yeah, look at all these guys. This is so cool. They're fun. We're all having a good time. And yet my wife's crying and I'm trying not to let him see that because that would have set him off. And then luckily she was with 3 of the FBI agents. The women were, frisking her and everything else. And the tactical team was going through the house and they're secure the premise. They're clear, making sure every room, there's no weapons and people. And so that took like 15 minutes because I have a big house. And then after they did all that, then that team leaves because they're definitely in better shape and more serious and younger. And once they leave, then there's probably another 21 of them still there, and they just ransack the house for 8 hours, tear it apart.
they tore it apart. They were looking for money or anything they could take, any evidence. And
Well, weapons, I don't have any weapons, but anything they could, yeah.
when you saw them, you knew immediately why they were there.
Yeah, I was raided actually 9 years earlier at my home, and it was a little different. The outcome was completely different, actually. That time there was about 14 of them, and they
Also with guns, also armed.
they came armed, but it wasn't as serious.
Aggressive.
Yeah, definitely not even close. I cooperated both times, opened the safes, gave them all the money. But this time in 2014, they made a deal with me. They signed abandonment form, and that form, which I have in my phone, it states that I will not hire an attorney. I will not go after the money, and I will release these funds, and I will not be charged a crime.
How much money was that then?
It was like 780,000, just like under $1 million.
So they were happy with that money and they said, okay, you're not going to get in more trouble. This is it.
I think, to be honest, they were looking, I know that they were looking to go up the ladder, and they thought I would be a person to give them information, but I wasn't willing to do that. And I don't think they deemed me as a big enough prize at the time. I had about 350 clients then, and I was 39 years old. And when they left, I went right to Verizon and I turned my phone on and went right back to work.
You started taking bets again. I mean,
not only did I take bets, I started building my business.
Oh, wow.
Bigger.
Because you realized, there's no downside here.
I thought, like, this is worst case scenario. I can go make this amount of money and do something I enjoy. Yeah, I'm going to go be the biggest bookmaker in the country.
And then fast forward, what was it, 7 years later?
No, it was so that was 9 years later is when they came, and now I had one of the biggest operations in the world. as far as volume.
Mhm.
And clearly it was much more serious.
But they weren't after you. They were essentially after the casino, right?
Yeah,
As far
which
as
they still
grills.
are. The case is still going.
And did they ask you to cooperate? And did you cooperate
Well,
with them?
they wanted information on the casinos. So my attorney, it's funny, we had this argument. She came to my home. I wouldn't speak at all to anyone. And then I hired her. She came over to my house and she walked in and she's like, "Oh, this is a beautiful home." She's like, "Are you going to cooperate?" And I said, "No." And she said, "Well, just get ready to move out then." And my wife starts crying.
Mm.
I'm like, "Wow, that's aggressive." And I said, "Can you explain that a little further?" And she's like, "If you're not going to cooperate, you just admitted that you're dead. Like
Mhm.
as far as your case, like I have nothing to fight. It's all in my phones." I said, "It's not that I'm not going to cooperate. I'll plead guilty. That's just I'm not going to give up my people." And she said, "Well, then that's not going to fly." And I said to her, I said, "Diane, this is right at the beginning of a relationship." I said, "Let me tell you something. If I have to do prison time, then I'll do prison time, but I'm not going to give up all my people. It's just, I'm not doing it. It's my operation.
Mhm.
If anyone should get in trouble, it's me." And she said, "Well, it doesn't work that way with the feds. You can't just select who you talk about and who you don't." And I said, "Well, I'll make you a deal." They obviously, when they came, they pulled my wife aside because, as I told you, she was a casino host, independent rep, and they tried to get her to talk, and she wouldn't. But they said, "We're here for Resorts World. We want to know what you know about Resorts World." So I kind of knew that this case was
It's
about
about
that,
that.
right?
Right.
So I said to Diane, I said, "Why don't you tell them that I will discuss my operations through the casino and only the casino and nobody in my telephone?" She's like, "They're not going to go for that."
You were trying to protect the people that worked for you, the
I was
agents,
trying
the
to
sub
protect
agents,
anyone in my phone, like
and anyone who
from
place bets or your customers.
yeah, customers, agents,
Mhm.
all the above. Because a lot of times in these cases, the agents all get busted
Right.
and they end up taking literally a felony. And I was like, these guys are low level people. I mean, some of them have families, they have a job. They just do this on the side for some additional money. And I'm not saying it makes it right, but I just didn't want my operation to hurt them. So I wasn't willing to do that. So she goes, "It's not going to fly, but I'll try." And then she called and the prosecutors agreed that they would do that.
Wow. And so
So
you never talked about the
no,
people in your.
no, this is why I was telling you earlier. Ipe Mizahara, they weren't allowed to talk about my phone and the people in my phone other than casino. So that's why it never came out until
It came out.
ESPN came to my house.
Yeah.
And then I realized that that was going to be on the ESPN Sports Center in the next few weeks. So I told my attorney, I said, "What do we do?" And she said, "You got to go tell the government."
So is he the only customer you ever had that you went and talked to the government
Yes.
about? The only
Yes.
one.
The only one. And I got cooperation credit for disclosing that to the United States government
Mhm.
because they would have found out obviously through ESPN or whatever. And so that's what lowered my
Hmm.
charges.
Right. Did you ever talk to him about the fact? Did you tell him that you were about to go to the government and tell
They
on him?
they actually contacted him.
Mhm.
I would think the FBI. I told them in January is when Tisha Thompson came to me,
Mhm.
and within a few days we went and spoke to them, and then they contacted him pretty much immediately. And the truth be told, no, I didn't have a
You did?
direct
What was the
conversation.
last conversation you had with him? Text, right? Because
Yeah, the text, and then he actually asked for my attorney, and I gave him my attorney.
He wanted to be represented by your attorney?
He was going to try, but she wasn't allowed to.
So the last text you had with him, he knew he was in trouble.
Oh yeah, yeah. It already all that had.
Oh, right, because it was the text that you actually said, and he says technically where he was.
I screwed up. He says, "Technically, I screwed up." But after that, I did speak to him again. That was maybe 2 weeks later about trying to connect him with Diane, my attorney. And then he did contact her, but she wasn't allowed to represent him.
How much time what is he doing in prison?
57 months.
So, wow, so much more than you.
Yeah, only because he stole the money.
Right.
And obviously, when you have, I don't have any theft or victims. He is a victim, Shohei Ohtani. My only victim technically was the IRS, but I paid them in restitution.
And I'm assuming you're not going to the same prison where he is at?
No, because he's in Pennsylvania.
Right.
I'm reporting to Lompoc, which is about 3 hours from here.
Huh. You just said nobody was actually harmed.
Correct.
Your operation. But that's not completely true, right? Because we have spoken here about gambling addiction. And
Oh, no, no doubt. Let me interrupt you. When I say harmed, I mean nobody violence or physically harmed. Definitely people were hurt. I had so many people that lost way more money than they could afford to. That's why I say I'm very clear. I'm not an angel.
Right.
I don't pretend. It's not like I was saving a child from a church fire. I mean, believe me, I wish I was. I definitely was monetizing off of people's gambling and some gambling addiction. But I want to be clear that I also have the same addiction, so I know exactly what people are going through. They were going to bet with me, and this is going to sound like an excuse. If they didn't bet with me, they're going to bet with somebody else, and that doesn't make it right.
It doesn't sound like an excuse, but I have to tell you, it does sound exactly like what people selling drugs that I've spoken to, drug traffickers, tell me.
Yeah,
If I
well,
don't traffic those drugs, somebody else will.
because if you got rid of every drug dealer and every bookie, then there would be none. That
Mhm.
excuse wouldn't fly. But what I'm saying to you is that they would be betting somewhere else anyway. That doesn't make it right. I still committed a crime. I'm accountable for it. I'm going to prison for it. And I've paid all the money that I owe. I'm still going to be paying taxes for the next umpteen years. That's going to be an issue I have to address. But do I feel good about it? No, I could have chose so many other careers. Do I feel like I manipulated and took advantage of people? Of course, I did. You know, there's no other way to say it.
Yeah.
I made money off of people losing gambling.
Mhm.
No different than a casino, no different than FanDuel, no different than DraftKings. But at the end of the day, that's a business I chose. That's what's great about my next move in life.
I was going to go there.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we're at that moment, right?
Yeah, and that moment is fantastic for me. So at 48 years old, I was empty, because I was making millions and millions of dollars. I have a beautiful wife, amazing connection. I have beautiful children.
Mhm.
They're raised. I mean, I'm very blessed with who
Right.
they are.
Incredible house, incredible
I have
lifestyle,
everything. I have
traveling
all of
the
that.
world. Yeah.
But I was very empty because I was doing something that I really didn't feel was 100% on board. Number one, I had to look over my shoulder. And then also, I'm contributing to a problem. So that's the reality of the situation. So every business I've ever been in, which I described to you earlier, commodities and bookmaking, it's win lose. Someone on the other side is losing. This is the first time in my life where it's win win. I just did my first public speaking event last week,
Nice.
85 employees. When I walked out, they gave me a standing ovation. I motivated people. I inspired them.
Mhm. What is the message? The main message?
The main message
The
for
book is
me,
called Recalibrate.
yeah,
Which
I wrote this book. It tells the dark moments of my life. Most people glorify their life. They get on social media and they show you how great they are, and yet they're having an affair, or it's all fake. I'm not fake. I'm not perfect. I talk about being imperfect. I talk about being in moments where I can't pay people.
Mhm.
I talk about gambling addiction where I lose money and I owe bookies and I don't even know how to pay them, but I figure it out. Or not being able to pay someone. I mean, these are conversations that people don't really want to say or do that they've been in. But the message now is I want to make an impact on the world. I want to inspire people. I want to show them when you have adversity. I'm 11 days from walking into prison. What am I doing? I'm standing here with you. I should be home with my family. People say, well, I will be as soon as I'm done with here. But
I thank you for being here with me
but
today.
the point is, like, someone listening to this might change their life.
Right.
And it doesn't have to be gambling addiction. It could be alcohol. It could be porn. It could be, cheating on their husband or wife. It could be so many things that we all have addictions, right? That are floating around. Or it could be
Or
someone
it
who
could be
has,
stuff that you do wrong in life, just like
yeah,
making mistakes. The more open you are about it, the better, because everybody makes mistakes, right?
that's right. Nobody's perfect.
Yeah.
And, here's the thing. If you are a person that doesn't want to take risk, I would pursue you to take some risk, educated, smart risk. But, some people are afraid to get on social media. Here I was, a 48-year-old man with 5 kids, never been on social media in my life. And what do? I just grab a phone and I start going on social media. Now I have 85,000 followers. It's growing rapidly, and I'm making an impact on the
Right.
world. I've been
And
helping
right.
people.
And you've decided to do that because you want to make an impact and you want to reach
Absolutely.
people with your message.
Yeah. And I don't expect anyone to, to listen to this or watch this and say, oh, this guy thinks he's, holier than thou or anything. It's not even about that. Like, I've made so many mistakes in my life, and I'm okay with that. Like, that's why I am who I am. But if I can help somebody and become a better human being, because that's all I'm trying to do. When I walk into prison, to me, it's a vacation. It's a vacation to reset. I mean, that sounds crazy, but that's my mindset. I have to go learn from my adversity. I have to go dig into this suck, this moments of suck, but I deserve that.
Mhm.
So I'll just go deal with it.
Right.
And it's going to be hard. It's going to be hard missing my 4-year-old boy and my 14-year-old daughter who's been crying the last 7 days. And we had Halloween 2 nights ago. We're walking around the neighborhood, and luckily my mom set up trick or treating.
You did Halloween early because you're going to prison.
Correct. And so these are things that I have to process. I have to go home as a father and say, you know what a loser. You're not, your job as a father is to provide and protect. And I feel like a deadbeat that I can't sit here and do that for my family for the
Mhm.
next 6 to 8 months or however long I'm in there.
Mhm.
But I got to look in the mirror and own that. The choices when I was on a private jet eating caviar, betting $4 million on a football game, I chose that.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, you need to choose this too.
yeah.
Yeah, you're also an example to your kids about accountability, right? And
Yeah.
using the mistakes you've made in life as an example for others
Sure.
about how to be better.
Listen, sometimes it's not the mistake you make, it's
Mm.
what you do after that matters the most. I mean, depending on what the mistake is, it can't be so, you don't go kill someone or anything. But like, I definitely made a lot of poor choices, but I think who I am now, I'll still make poor choices, but
Mm.
they'll be much more assessed. I'll make sure that the risk and the whatever I choose to do is going to be calculated much better. But my kids are going to learn like adversity. What do? You run into the fire. You don't run away from it.
Mhm.
You don't back down from situations. You own it. You be accountable. You teach yourself more than the people around you. And the stronger I become, because I've always had a great mindset, I've always known I can make a lot of money. So the next 10 years of my life, I'll make more than I made the first 50 years.
Mhm.
I've probably made 50, $60 million in my
Mm.
lifetime. I know I can make more than that in 10 years.
Right.
That may sound crazy. A guy who was a felon, can't get a license, doesn't really have anything to come home to, but I do. I've been building a little brand. I've been building things up and I know what I can do.
Right. Your message resonates with a lot of things, I believe. Making a lot of money less because that's what I stand for. Although I do like making money too, but I think the idea that you ran this illegal operation or whatever you do in a criminal activity, you can either hide it and make excuses for yourself and blame other people and pretend this never happened, and that can be the example that you share with your kids, or you can decide I'm going to shine the biggest light on this, on my example, and make this an example that can impact other people positively
Sure.
and can be an example for my kid. And I think that's something that Justin Paperny, who I
Uh-huh.
interviewed also, who you know as well,
Right.
spoke to about a lot, because I'm a strong believer in that idea of like not I hate shame around. Even I think I gave him this example. Even I'm going to tell you, it's a small story, but you know, whenever I've made mistakes, I always like to talk about the mistakes, and I make mistakes often. My son recently made a huge mistake, making a really stupid mistake. And he was afraid. Do I tell the school that this happened? And I was like, yes, go out there, tell all your colleagues, tell the school, make this an example for you. I can't tell you what it is because it's not my story to tell,
Sure.
but make sure that the other people learn from the stupid mistake that you make.
Right.
And yeah, and I think a lot of times the instinct is like, just let's put it under the rug and
Hide. Yep.
hide it and pretend that this didn't
And
happen,
right.
because who wants to live with that shame?
Sure.
But what do you do with that, with those bad moments in life?
Well, when you hide it, it's worse because you're living with it. And
Right.
when you set yourself free,
Yeah.
and to your point, what you said earlier, which is funny, I think I've gotten the most shit for that, which is I keep talking about money.
Sorry I said that.
No, I'm glad you did. I want to address it. Have you ever suffered financially in your life?
No.
Yeah. So I think that's why I say that, because usually people that judge that comment haven't really felt the suffering. And
For sure. And let me just tell you, my problem is not you wanting to make money. That's
right.
perfectly valid, and a lot of people do, and quite frankly, I do too. It's more that when we're talking about your reinvention and the impact that you want to have in life, is yes, I can make money, and I want to make sure that that money is somehow used for your lifestyle, but also used in a way that I can impact well, whether it's educating people with gambling addiction. And that's the part that I wanted to focus more on.
Oh no, I get it. I
Right.
and you're correct. Like the impact. Listen, if you do something you're passionate about and you impact the world, you're winning. You're rich,
Mhm.
right? The only thing I can say is that because I've watched my mom suffer and lose homes,
Right.
working
I did.
3 jobs, kidney dialysis technician, and just lose everything. And so I think for me, I've just never wanted to put my wife and kids through that. And even though I'm going to prison, which is probably worse, let's be real, I'm not even going to be around. So I talk about that. That's why I felt like a deadbeat dad for
Mhm.
what I'm going through. But what I'm going to come back and do will be so powerful. But I know I'm going to make more money because of the reason I'm doing it, the impact that I'm making.
Right.
So making money has never been a struggle for me. But now I have something behind it that's even more passionate, more powerful. So do I really care if it's $100 million or 10 million? Probably not. But it's more of like I'm a very competitive, egotistical guy.
Mhm.
Some people even say I'm a narcissist, but with the ones who don't like me on my Instagram, but I'm
I'm
okay with
very
that.
competitive too.
Yeah.
I'm known to be egotistical too.
Yeah, so I'm
we're
okay
the
with that.
same, yeah.
I think people who are ultra successful are a little bit
Right.
egotistical. So
I'm not sure if egotistical is the word. Egocentric, I would
yeah,
say. Like,
okay.
yeah, I like talking about myself and the
Yeah.
stuff that I do.
Hey, if it motivates you and you know, at the end of the day, I mean, I think we all have to find ways to use your mindset to be stronger and motivate yourself. And, you know, that there's a positive in that.
Right. Well, this has been a wonderful conversation. I
Yeah,
really
me too.
enjoyed it. Thank you for being so honest with us and having this discussion about
Of
what does
course.
money matter for.
Yeah.
And I really, really appreciate it.
I appreciate you having me.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You're one of the first 10 guests on the Hidden Third.
Oh, perfect. Well, hopefully I'll be your best. There's my ego.
There's your competitive side. I love it. Thanks.
Pleasure. Thank you
Thanks
so
so
much.
much.
I really appreciate it.